And it allows the incredible memory of the cells because the cells have memory back through history in some
Hmm.
areas. And the research that's been done recently on all of this is incredible because the telomeres literally grow and they become like as if it's cosmic antennas. And I'm talking about cosmic antennas. So you can tap into the cosmos and the wisdom of that. However, if you take an implant, for your brain to be able to tap into AI so you don't have to talk to anybody, you just talk to yourself and all the wisdom of the so-called wisdom or knowledge of the ages. Well, it doesn't compare. That's just a teaser for you there. But I'll see if I can find the name of the book and all that. But we got the book and we got to be able to see it because of the Hay House had a program for him. And I got some tea boiling right now, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, that actually, I mean, what Kurt was saying is reminds me of a lot of the conversations that actually we've been having with many of these indigenous peoples who understand that these connections um, to our history, our ancestries, are real and embedded within ourselves and our cells and the memories that are contained in even our DNA and I mean scientists at the beginning always thought that there was a whole bunch of like DNA was like little bits of it were active and useful, but the rest was all like junk. But that's not the case, right? Those are the memories, um, the historical memories of ourselves over vast past periods of time, um, and we can tap into those. This is why there is such a thing as intergenerational trauma and these wisdoms um, of the indigenous who understand these connections is very important to have the dialogues, which is what we've been trying to do actually as well in the internet. And
Mm.
so we've been promoting something called two-eyed seeing, um, where we can use the knowledge and wisdom of the Western sort of perspective of science and technology and development of in that in that realm, but we can also use these indigenous historical embedded uh, wisdoms of the ancients. So is Bill ready to get going again, or
Okay. Okay. I think I've got the key items. But one more here. I need to key up here. Um, let me.
but I mean I do still like these AI tools, even though they've been trained um, in sort of the dialogues happening within the Western world. Um, for the most part, they are still learning, and they're learning based on what we feed it. I mean, it does ultimately does come down to the old adage within computer science of garbage in, garbage out, GIGO. Whatever you feed it will come back out the other end. Um, in this case, it's much more like a behavior, a human like behavior, uh, hence artificial intelligence. Um, but it really depends on our behaviors that will ultimately decide the end result and the behaviors of the artificial one. These artificial intelligences that we are creating, which right now are serving us very, very well. And I think we're in a little bit of a bleeding edge, but also a golden age of AI in the sense that we still have control over it. It hasn't become completely agentic in the sense that it's just doing anything it wants. Hasn't been let loose completely and entirely. At least I don't think so, unless the military has done so without our knowledge, which could be possible. Given what's happening in Ukraine and what they've been, I mean, that was a whole battleground, a testing ground for
Oh, well, no,
all of
just
this stuff, the military hardware and everything.
yeah, no, the very first thing that any new concept starts going through is military testing.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing to them.
I mean, the Ukraine war is all about like testing drones, testing the autonomous AI and all that stuff, right? You even see it in the Middle East with the launching of those drone attacks against Israel, and I mean, it's happening.
Okay.
And even the big tech companies are what they're reversing their policies on the use of these technologies in military applications now, right?
Yeah. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but the first soldier robots are out and in a number of different formats, and probably there's probably almost as much money or even more money going into weaponizing AI and robotics than there is into civilian purposes.
More.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
probably more, probably more. And uh, there are parties that are involved in most major governments here looking and saying it's an existential factor because if you lose the battle to have the most superior AI, then the war is over. That's the mindset, if you would.
The biggest problem is that if the AI becomes agentic, both sides lose. We all lose.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, agentic, there's two levels.
Yeah.
There's the autonomous agentic, and there's the directed agentic.
Mhm.
And directed agentic, it depends on who's doing the directing, obviously. But this is a problem. Anyway, let's get started. Again, I apologize. Um, I had rebooted yesterday, so I was figuring I was all set for this morning. And then I come and see that they did another update overnight, and it took a little longer to have my computer apply those changes and restart, which I've had in the past where I was unable to make the recording. So I wanted to make sure I had that done. Anyway, we're here. So let me get officially started. Ding, I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, and I declare this meeting on 15 February 2025 to be open. I'd like to start here with the agenda for today. And there's two parts to it, really. The one part, which I don't know, maybe we should handle first, is just a brief overview over what's new in AI, what that's influencing where the world is going and how quickly it's going. We'll touch upon that, and I really invite all of you to chime in if you're aware of any new developments there that is going to influence our lives going forward. The second topic, and really the major topic for today, is the moving forward on the idea of creating a diplomat's toolkit. And what that is about here is creating AI tools or defining and providing training on the AI tools that could support diplomatic efforts in seeking to solve major world problems. We know the key to solving a lot of the world problems is we have to have collaboration among all the parties in the world if we're going to be successful in dealing with these problems. And we know out of recent decades that a big part of failing to make the progress that's needed is because we haven't been able to achieve really truly committed consensus on how to move forward addressing the problems out there. So we will get into the how we can create a toolkit for that. And very specifically, because uh, uh, the UN is not always or any professional diplomats are not the easiest group to corral and say, let's work together and figuring out how to automate a lot of what you do. We are working with model UN groups. And in particular, there is a couple of Model UN events, major events from the Future We Want Model UN conference group, which is one of the largest in the world, and in April. So specifically, we're looking to see, can we invite a lot of the youth participating in that to demonstrate the value that can be achieved by using artificial intelligence in the support of diplomatic efforts to address world problems. Anyway, so that is the driving. I'm going to share my screen because I just want to bring up our agenda. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that. Let me just move this out of the way a little bit. Can all of you see my screen? It's showing
Yes.
the content of the invite that I sent out. And we talked about AI-supported diplomacy to better address major problems. And we basically these would be of value to diplomats, future diplomats, or parliamentarians, and anyone seeking to use AI to better understand problems and how to facilitate consensus to effectively address them. And especially good for model UNers, which can sometimes perhaps even become the way that professional diplomats get to observe the benefits of using these tools. And in particular, looking at using AI on how do we research committee topics and world problems, or how do we help them research those? How do we help them formulate the position papers? That's not only just saying, oh, we need to come up with a text how to do that, but it's really how do you help your government formulate its position on whatever the topics are in such a way that they have support of the stakeholders in their countries, but it's also something that is achievable. You don't want to have a position paper that is something that no one's going to support, and you have no chance of getting it done. So the parties that participate in the committees they've got to inform the decision makers in their government of the doability of various approaches and get consensus within their government, and then get the guidance from their government that declare, okay, this is their government's position on whatever the topic is. And they have to combine not only making sure that they're the people in their country that are making the decisions on their country's position, and not only that they know what's doable based on where the other countries in the world are, but also that they really understand what the issues are, what the possibilities and opportunities are, what the dangers are, what the urgency is, and so forth and so on. Then we get into it's really important for a diplomat to have a good understanding. Where are the other countries? Where are the delegations? What are they likely to accept and not accept, and why? And how might we be able to influence them to support where the position of our country? Writing effective speeches, the AI can help with that. Developing negotiation strategies. When we understand the pros and cons of all the aspects of the problem, and we understand the positions of the other countries, and we really understand and detail the position of our country, we can develop negotiation strategies for different categories of the delegations of other countries on how we might be able to influence them. Then verbally practicing the speeches and answering the questions that might come up. So handling the difficult questions relative to speeches or relative to negotiation discussions, and the ability to the ability uh, to deal with likely counterpoints that'll be brought up. So being able to have the AI role play adversarial parties, and so you can practice talking to the AI in that role, and practicing how you would react to different things that other parties might bring up. And the coaching, the AI being able to coach how you can improve how you present things, or how you react to things. So those are things that you might do before you ever get into any kind of committee meetings, and then being able to use AI to monitor and analyze what's going on in the conference. In other words, have your AI sitting next to you, basically listening to all the speeches and presentations of the other delegations, being able to determine how maybe you should react to what these other delegations are saying, but also being able to base your priorities on who you're going to try to influence first, based on what those delegations are saying. So if the delegation in their presentations say something here that could be a hook that you can hook into in creating a group of member states or delegations in supporting certain parts that you want to get in, or certain positions you want to get into a resolution draft, for example. And so that, and also to inform you on maybe modifying your negotiation strategies for discussing things. And your AI can even be listening in when you're in those negotiations discussions with other delegations. And if you're wearing the right hearing aid, perhaps be able to advise you in the middle of your negotiation points. Oh yeah, dig deeper onto that point. They're weak on this. Bring up this. Bring up that. And literally, it can be doing that. So at any rate, those are the types of things that we are looking to discuss with regards to the diplomacy aspect. Yes, Lloyd.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking as you were talking there, wouldn't it have been great if President Biden had been able to use these tools to practice against Trump before the debates?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or whisper in his ear what he should say
Yeah.
in response to things. Uh,
Because
and
the reactions, especially during that last debate, were just
yep,
awful, right?
yep, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, this applies to all types of things. We have political parties, obviously, that are have positions, and they want to get their positions across, and how to figure out how to negotiate, how to build coalitions. This does not only apply to things like diplomats at the UN or the EU or the AU, but it applies to all political efforts, or even when we think of business and you think of doing business with your business partners, or pitching a new startup idea. Or even within the company, pitching new marketing concepts, or pitching um, new product ideas, or modifications to products. I mean, these same sets of tools and the same kinds of things that we're talking about here. I think the opportunity for anybody that learns this to take this on to all aspects of life is huge, and so we'll look into that. Yes, Kurt.
What I hear right now is this idea of this combative kind of approach to mediation, so to speak, to solving the issues of war or whatever. Uh,
Oh, I think it's quite the opposite. It's how do you
I
build
think, yeah,
consensus?
I'm actually of the mind that this can actually be used to prevent those kinds of
Yeah.
Well, when you
conflict
ask the
approaches.
AI, how is it that we can have the most benefit for all the parties involved?
Okay, no, that you're
Mhm.
100% right, because a diplomat is the equivalent of a lawyer. They
Yeah,
they don't have their own ideas. They're there to represent the ideas of their client, or in the case of a diplomat, their government. So
and the thing
The
about
people,
that is
the
that
people, they're there
we have all the
to
people,
represent the
all the
people in a real
planet,
democracy.
and we have all the planet to take into account. So when we do
Mhm.
that, we've got to approach it that way. And it will also give the idea to the AI, this is how we do things for the benefit of all our
All our
relations.
right, yeah, except here,
relations,
diplomats.
all of the creation.
Yeah, but the problem is diplomats' job or mission, if you would, is not to represent the people. The role of the diplomat is to represent the government. If you have
No, that's wrong.
dictatorship in the world that's out there, and they send their representative to the UN, their representative is there to represent that dictatorship, not the people of the country. Uh,
Absolutely.
they only serve at the pleasure, if you would, of their government that appoints them. And this is really something that's a weakness, if you would. The people that are working to try to reform the UN is the recognition that as long as people are there saying, how do I serve my government the best, that we are not getting necessarily the best solutions for the world.
And if
That's
we
a
were to
different.
be able to give them the idea that this is the optimum way for life to flourish,
Yes.
and it starts to be able to happen because they see us flourishing, because we do the
You need
same
to give
thing
them the
within our
example.
country, within our nation. We are the models
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
doing such a thing.
Mhm.
Lisa has her hand up. Lisa Nice.
Hi. Um, now, the structure of the UN organizations, of course, are the ones at the top, mostly are appointed by governments, and yes, they serve that government. Um, what happens after that is as you start going down into the fields and the different uh, groups that report to the UN, the
Yep.
data that they provide.
Yep.
That's when you start getting people who are a little more what we call like pure of heart as far as humanity is concerned.
Yeah. Can we hold
Um,
off on that because Lisa, Nisa, you touched really where I want to start on going into the diplomatic side of things. But before there, because I was still trying to just go through the agenda for today. So I just want to bring up that in addition to this, because things are moving so fast, I think it has to be part of every one of our meetings, regardless of what the other topic is, that we need to update on what's going on the big news. So the news this week is maybe a little different. We're not having a new ChatGPT X being released or a new Gemini X being released, but nevertheless, there really is some big news out there. And I think maybe we can get this out of the way so we can go into the main topic, which is that diplomatic. How can we improve the ability of diplomats to really effectively solve world problems? I'm going to get into that whole conflict aspect of representing government versus representing the people of the world. But let's start off. I'd like to start off here with the news of what's happened here in this last week that is really important to us. And is everybody okay with that? Okay,
Mhm.
so the one of the big things here that came out this week was Sam Altman in a post describing the roadmap that OpenAI has uh, going forward here for the next, as he put it, weeks and months. So we're not, he didn't say, hey, this is where we're going to be. He did make a speech to say, this is what things are going to look like in 2035. But then he got into from the other angle of things they're planning to bring out here very shortly. And two of the big news that he announced was that they are going to be releasing ChatGPT 4.5 and 5.0 within weeks and months. Now, there's a good chance they're going to do like what they're doing with deep research right now, release it in to only to the pro level, which is the $200 a month level. But he's also, well, actually, I'll take that back. He explicitly said these are going to be free to everyone. But the question is, will they be free on day one, or will it be this, oh, we're going to get it to the 200 month users, let them work out the kinks, if you would, and as they get to understand what the costs are in terms of compute power needed to support users to then before they bring it down to the $20 a month audience and then eventually to the free audience. But he definitely said it is going to be free to everybody. Now, one of the important things, this 4.5 version, when he says weeks and months, I'm assuming that he's saying something is only a matter of weeks. And that could be 4.5. 4.5 is what used to be being referred to last year. There was a lot of talk about this version Orion. And it was confirmed now that 4.5 is Orion. And they explicitly said this is going to be the last version that will be non-thinking. Everything after 4.5, 5.0 and on, everything will be thinking models. There will be no non-thinking models. The other thing here that was very important that he said was that when you go in now to ChatGPT, and it applies the same if you're going into Gemini or whatnot, you or Perplexity, and you got to say, what model are you using? Are you going to use 04 or 40? Are you using the O3 Mini, O3 Mini High, and so forth and so on? And the same when you're over in Gemini, are you using 1.5 Pro, or are you using 2.0 experimental with thinking or without thinking, all these different types of things. So he's saying here that the AI is going to decide what models to use when, based on what you're asking for. It will use its smarts to figure out how to best approach your what you're looking for. Um, Amazon also made an announcement. Well, no, let me go back. There was an article in Forbes this week saying uh, that that we're approaching having a universal interface, probably a universal voice interface. This is what I talked a little bit about last week. That the most transformative thing that we are expecting is uh, this idea of uh, having a universal um, interface. I'm trying to see here because I had that keyed up to be able to show um, to show what they're saying is going to be happening here because it is so dramatic. Um, okay, I don't see. I thought I had it over here on the other one. Okay, so but at any rate, here I'll try to find the link to the article. But basically, what it is saying is what we said last week. You're going to have a single interface, probably a voice interface that'll be available on all smartphones, smart devices at home, and so forth. That is going to be, it's going to radically change your life. It is going to be your companion, your confidant, your mentor, your tutor, your coach, your assistant, your partner, and your best friend. That it's your best friend that it accompanies you all day long, everywhere you go, sees everything you see, hears everything you hear, actually sees and hears a lot more than you see and hear, even because it has access to networked devices all around it. And it knows what's going on in those, as well as what it physically sees around you. And uh, you're going to be spending more time with that friend and companion than with any human in your life. And uh, Forbes was stressing that that is on the way, just around the corner. And in that direction, we have Amazon has on the 26th of this month, which is just a little more than 1 week away. They have said they will have a major announcement, and it's expected they are going to announce the AI supported version of Alexa, so that in your home you're going to be able to start talking to Alexa about everything in the world that is of interest to you. Now, whether they're going to throttle that and say, yeah, you can, but you can only have 10 conversations a day or whatever, that remains to be seen. And it is expected they are going to create a tiered approach. So you'll be able to go to Alexa Classic, which is what you have now, or for $5 a month or $10 a month. The rumors go both way. You will have access to this version that is probably at the level of uh, ChatGPT 4.0 to talk about everything in the world. And they're bringing that out with new versions of Echo Show, which is the having the Alexa device, but with camera and screen. And maybe if it's the equivalent of the 10, it'll be on a swivel. So it'll be able to be looking around everywhere in your house while it's talking to you. Okay, so those I think are really important. And in the same direction, we're seeing Gemini with live talk, with uh, uh, having access to Gemini with apps, so that you now are essentially able to talk to your YouTubes, if you would, in many ways. This is sort of taking an enhanced version of what you have with Notebook LM, its ability to have podcasts that you can actually talk to the hosts on, ask them questions and so forth in the middle of the audio podcast. And So it's all the players. We're seeing all the players going in the same direction. There's also, I think, it's scheduled for this coming week that we're going to probably see Grok 3. That's Elon Musk's version, which he's claiming is way, way better than even the 3.0 version or O 03 version of ChatGPT. That will be coming out. So we're seeing the increased competition among the players in the AI space, accelerating the speed with which all of this stuff is coming to market. And since the Trump administration has removed all of the concerns to be safe, to not take dangerous actions, that this is putting more and more pressure on these players. Throw it out there, and let the public clean it up, if you would, and advise. Another thing in this direction, we're starting to see more and more examples of efforts to make AI self-improving. And of course, the big risk of that is if AI is able to improve itself, that it literally, in a matter of hours, it could become 1,000 times stronger than it is right now, and that would be the end of humans having any control or say over what's going on in the future. So they're definitely playing with fire on that. So all of these things are seem to be pushing towards that idea of AI becoming your 24/7 favorite companion. Um, and of course, I haven't even gotten into the agentic world. And if you are tracking in YouTube what's going on with AI, you're seeing now every second post has something about agents and agentic and how quickly you can do things, and the use cases that people are starting to be able to get the AI models to be able to do. So,
Well, you do realize, Bill, that you you uh you have been trapped in the algorithms. We don't all get the same feed as you get. Your particular feeds are focused on what you've been watching in the past, right? You've been algorithmized or whatever
right.
into the YouTube, and you're getting everything based on what you've seen in the past. So that's why you're seeing that stuff, as every second YouTube video is having that.
Well, actually, here it's very funny. I mentioned the ones that are talking about what AI is capable of, and where it's going in that regard. But I would say because I am algorithmized,
I don't know the word, but
yeah, I actually get more references um, to the danger, the societal impacts, and what could go wrong, such as the weaponization that's going on, such as the geopolitical pressure points, if you would, that are coming out of this, and things like the implications for the societal impacts on economies, and the like. I tend not to post those as much, but I'm thinking we need to have a one of the sessions in one of our meetings upcoming. Maybe we should. I could post three or four of the particularly strong presentations that sort of present step-by-step examples, almost like the meteorologist that's trying to describe what is the likely trajectory of a storm, and saying here, here's the points that are going to confirm that trajectory or not, or confirm how strong the storm is likely to be, and how much damage and how you might prepare. There's some really, really good presentations on some of those things, and some have impact on the economy, and some have impact on our humanity, our humanness.
Bill, can I add something?
Sure.
The thing is, with reference to this point, that algorithm, and you are talking with reference to algorithm and all these your prior experiences with related to algorithms. The thing is, since the first day when we are talking about AI, it's all about already about algorithms. We
Oh, yeah.
cannot.
Yeah, because
We
in the end of the
cannot.
day,
Yeah.
yeah, because in the end
That
of the
is
day,
the major
computers.
concern, and that is the major challenge which we have to prepare ourselves and others as well. Okay, now we have to deal with all these algorithms.
Well, actually, it's very interesting on that, because some of the things that you can do is you can direct, because of the agent technology coming up, is you can offset what let's say the supplier side might be feeding to you based on what you've looked at or asked for in the past. Uh, so yes, that's one thing that influences people, because we're getting put into these think-alike bubbles because of that. But you're able to now go up and set up agents that will go out there on a schedule, because you can use task setting right now. And because these agents are not you, so they don't necessarily have the algorithm that's tuned into them, at least not initially. And you can have them each going out there from different perspectives. So they're searching for and pulling in information from certain perspectives, and they can put together your briefing on the perspective that they've been asked to gather information on, and give you daily briefings. And you can set up a whole bunch of agents that will go out there and research on different perspectives, looking for, okay, what's happened in the last 24 hours that apply to whatever it is you're looking at there. Um, so, but the yeah, the idea here is AI. Some of the things that have really been enhanced in AI very recently are memory. Especially Gemini this last week added memory to its normal chatbot, which means it now remembers all the conversations that it's had with you. And this is actually crucial to become that companion, confidant, mentor, coach that we were talking about. Is it has to remember you and remember your preferences, remember your abilities, remember what you know, what you don't know. So it can interact with you with all that in mind. Uh, that, if you would, is the super algorithmic factor of the world, because it's now saying, no, everything in the world is going to be based on what I know of you, which of course is based on what you have done, asked for, or said in the past. And so that's going to be honed, if you would, into
So we're going to go into more and more and more into bubbles.
it has the risk to put you more and more in bubbles. It's a double-edged sword, because sometimes I'll go out and I'll search for a certain kind of product, let's say, and I don't find it right away. But I love the idea that 2 days later, this thing pops up and says, by the way, I found a product like you were looking for a couple of days ago, and informs me of that, and that is a huge convenience. Um, so it's yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Michael, yes, please. Yes, Michael. Nope, you were unmuted, but you muted yourself again. Uh,
Ask him to unmute.
yeah, I did. Please unmute yourself, Michael. There you go. Oh, nope, you only did a temp. There you go.
Oh, thank you very much, Bill. Um, I think there's a problem with this unmute button. Thank you very much for the presentation. I wanted to hear from you about the reason why lately the Catholic Church and the pontiffs are interested in AI, and they are really advocating for artificial intelligence. I wonder where or how it connects with the faith. Could you be having an idea why they are interested in AI?
Well, let's see. What did I discuss the last with the Pope?
Why don't you
He,
ask
he didn't tell me what the motive
CAI,
was,
Michael? Maybe it will have some insights.
but I can see back in there's a famous book. Actually, I have a copy of it right here. Um, it's titled "Bowling Alone" by a professor, Robert D. Putnam at Harvard University. And what it talked about was in the 1960s, starting in the 1960s, community-based organizations and membership organizations started to fall apart. A lot of reasons. There was the advanced communication, the advanced mobility through cars, and things like this really started to hit home. After World War II, and in the United States, the Korean War to a degree too, the structures were rebuilding themselves, and during the same time, things like TV came along, and the telephone went from you're having to bang 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 and do party calls and count the number of rings to know whether it was for you or for your neighbor, and to where telephones work semi-automatically. And so people started to travel more. They maybe worked in a different community, then they shopped somewhere else, they worshiped somewhere else. And at any rate, community structures started to fall apart. And along with the membership organizations, and the reason that book is called Bowling Alone is because in the United States, up until that point, if you wanted to bowl, you had to be part of a bowling league because they reserved all the bowling lanes all the time. And but that started to fall apart, and people started to just go bowling on their own time. But also political parties fell apart. Organizations like Rotary and Lions and those types of service clubs had a huge decline. But in addition, the religious community started to have a huge decline in membership as well. And the what was seen is a couple of denominations started to apply the concept of economies of scale. So until then, religious communities, denominations, they had some kind of a charter or whatnot that says this is what makes us different from others. But they were all left to themselves. They did their own things. But a couple of denominations went and they started to centralize some functions and say we have to offer value added to our members on the ground. And So that created here that they would centrally create sermons, and the different ministers could pick out which versions they wanted to use, and time savers to different things that they would normally do. Um, so it's very possible that the Catholic Church is looking and saying, "Hey, um, we have membership problems in a lot of countries where we're at, that perhaps the use of AI can assist our local parishes in better servicing their communities or better communicating with their communities, that will help with cohesion and membership." That's a possibility. And we have a member of our club who's often on the meetings, not here today. I don't see her here today, who is very, very active in a major uh, religious order, and applying AI in support of that religious order. So could be coming from those kind of angles, but it also could be coming from the hope or promise that AI has the potential to greatly improve in the abundance, to deal with poverty, to deal with illnesses, to deal with hunger. All of these things, AI has a great potential to alleviate the problems in some of those areas. So it could come from there. But it's an interesting thing. And you know what? When we get finished on the call, I'm going to go ask ChatGPT, well, what is the interest of the Pope in AI? I think that could be a very interesting question or a very interesting answer. I'm looking forward to that one. Okay. So, but I think the takeaway here on the AI news, especially here, if you take a look at the percentage of YouTube posts that are talking today about ChatGPT 4.5 and 5.0, it shows you how the focus, it's all about either that announcement, or there's some new video tools that are out there that really jumped the video world quite a bit forward. And of course the agent technology. But there's also a lot, if you talk about the post-labor economy, and you'll see there's a lot of posts about that. Julie McCoy is one who has a lot of really deep think in that in that direction. Um, Also, Shapiro, what's his name? David Shapiro, I think it is. He's another one that has a lot of good information on the post-labor economy and its impacts. There's also a very strong presentation this week, or discussion this week, from Peter Diamandis in that direction, that um, talking about here and how quickly. And Sam Altman made some statements. He and Elon Musk made some statements that the time for human labor is coming to an end. But they didn't say it's this year or next year, but in the near future. And I was just talking to a former officer of our club yesterday, who I hadn't talked to for a while. And I remember her son, accompanying her son to a Model UN in New York, and it seemed like it was yesterday. And then she's telling me here, oh, he's just wrapping up his senior year in college. So when we look and say, how long is 5 years? Because it's a minimum of 5 years ago that we went to that Model UN. And as I say, it seems like yesterday. So when we talk and say, oh, we're looking at 2026 or 2027, that's half that time. So we really have to think back at something you did 2, 3, 4 years ago, and realize how short a time that was, and now take that time amount forward and say, well, universities may no longer exist or play a role by then, and jobs, the majority of jobs are going. Oh, before I get off that, and I'm going to come to Joan, I'm going to come to you in a minute. With regards to jobs, um, I've noticed that first of all, if you ask AI anything about jobs, they'll always bring up, and especially Notebook LM, if it does a podcast and you haven't mentioned it, it will bring in, if you've mentioned jobs at all, it'll bring in, oh, no sweat. Every time we've had technology come along, it creates more jobs than it displaces. And by the way, there are certain things like empathy and emotional intelligence and creative thinking and things like this that AI will never be able to do as good as humans. And it ignores the examples of studies that show those simply not to be the case, and that there's literally no job that humans have an advantage in, other than if it's regulated and the government says only humans are allowed to do these kinds of jobs. So, at any rate, I think it's really important to consider the time frames of things, but also watch out for that bias in all the AI tools that are out there right now, that they seem to have a huge fear that humans might recognize that they are not going to be able to compete in pretty much anything. So, Joan, yes, please.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I have a meeting before this. I always try to get out early, but you know, as it is. And I did get out early this time. So, if to me, I've been doing a lot of sort of to understand the technology and how it works, and I'm not a techie. My sort of simple, basic understanding is that AI is data collection. So if you put it's what's on the internet or what's available that's that they can grab. That's what they're grabbing. It's not like if you come from another country, for example, and somebody's talking about the history of North America, you can say, well, the history of the Caribbean is this, and this is why this happened, kind of thing. So, how well, maybe I give a good example, an actual example. Someone did um, uh, a comparison between why North Americans or the West are pro-Israel and not Palestine. And so he did this study, and he drew from the AI. And it was a lack of articles on the internet that were written by Palestinians are not available compared to ones written by uh, not Israelis but Jews everywhere because they're kind of different and the same. And it was interesting because it was the data that was being collected. So if you're looking for research, for example, it's just data collection at the end of the day.
Actually, yes, in the original, but there's a thing called reinforced learning. And reinforced learning is because when you go out there and just scrape the internet, you're going to get all kinds of garbage, and they always talk about garbage in, garbage out. And in the early days of the model, it was just, okay, we scraped the internet and here's everything we found. And it went out there. And if there's 10 people that said smoking is good for you, and only 2 articles that said smoking was bad for you, it would come out and say, oh, smoking is good for you, because that's the majority of references it found. But more and more, the libraries, if you would, are being evaluated. When you do your chat, there's always that plus minus. Was it a good answer, not a good answer? And that helps inform to correct this reinforced approach. And this is why when we look at hallucinations and we look at incorrect information over the last 2 years, it has really gone down steadily. increasingly less and less and less and less. And the when we look at the distilled models, the things like this DeepSeek, but they're not the only one. Everybody has been using distilled, maybe not to the efficiency that DeepSeek did, but the idea of distill is I go out there and I look at that total sum and I try to pull the gist of the thing. So I don't need 50 articles that are all claiming and writing and saying the exact same thing. I can try to distill that down into a statement and just say, oh, there's 10 references to that or whatever. So this is why we're able to see the compute power needed to support an individual user's request. I think I heard that the cost of that has been declining at about 1,000, one thousandth a year of what it was the previous year. But so those are getting better and better. On top of that, there was a recognition that even just a couple of months after ChatGPT first came out in November 2022, that the idea of custom instructions or the idea in your prompt to be very explicit, which could about context. I've often used the example if I went out in the middle of Times Square in New York and I just asked the first passerby of how they would do a heart bypass, the odds are I'm not going to get a very valuable or good answer. But if I go and ask people first, are you a surgeon or a heart specialist? And then I only ask those heart specialists, how would you do this? My answer is probably going to be much, much better. And that evolved into the whole concept of prompt engineering. That got into the idea of custom instructions that you can put in the background to say only use reliable sources. And now you're able to go out there. There's GPTs that will limit the scope of the body of knowledge that it asks, only to peer-reviewed papers, for example. And you have the same thing when you go into Perplexity. You can say where's the focus? Only go and look for this kind of information to pull your sources from. So that's what's contributed. Those things have contributed, and a thing called fine tuning as well. Fine tuning lets you add in information that narrows the scope again of what's being used for the source of the responses to your individual questions. Now, more recently, with the thinking models, the O1 to O3, and the models going forward, they're adding in that, okay, it went out there and it found a bunch of information. And it says, here's the answer. And that answer might represent 1/10 of 1% of whatever it looked at. Or whatever it found, because it's going to synthesize and summarize it down to give you an answer. But then they're adding a step where it takes the answer that it was going to give you and it puts it back in and say, please confirm the information. And this is really reducing the errors and the hallucinations dramatically down. And this is what we are see being added to O3, and for sure as one of the major things going to be added here on 4.5 and especially 5.0 going forward. So I think that the garbage in, garbage out factor is playing less and less a role. Now, having said that, if you go in there and you write a paper or you put in your custom instructions and say, I only want to have you to pull answers from statements that agree with some crazy person, then you're tuning it to go only and look for those things. And there are people out there. I actually have members of my family that are like that. That if it doesn't agree with what they already thought before they asked, they say it's a lie. And not a lot of value asking a question if you're saying, but if it isn't the answer that I already want, then your answer is garbage. Yeah, that's a potential risk that we have. Joan, does that give you any kind of answer or value to?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm just trying to understand how it's going to make our lives better in terms of information, right? Because I'm totally for it because there's nothing we can do. It's here. So I'm trying to understand it. But what I'm trying to get at is the analysis and like um if there are two researchers doing something, I'm not a researcher, by the way. I like to research things, but I'm not a researcher, if that makes sense. So I work with a lot of researchers and policy people. So if you're not asking the right questions, as even verbally, you're going to get the wrong answer. But if you're having a conversation with someone and you pose a question, they would say, "Do you mean this?" And you can clarify it and you can debate on it and then come up with a good paper. And I'm just wondering if all of that is sort of left from the human side. And I go back to always my question is if that I've asked in the past is if we're going there with AI, we should be creating a society where we're educating people how to live on a day-to-day basis without a job.
No, the whole issue that you're talking about here with what do we do when in a post-labor economy? Yeah, this is crucial, and we have a big problem right now that there are too many people that don't want to get into these kinds of discussions. Yeah, uh, and that's a big part of our challenge to make sure that we have people um, discussing these issues. Where are we going in the future? How do we expect the world to work in the future here in the direction that we're going? This is crucial, and there's not enough people willing to talk about it, and we got to get them to talk about it because in the end of the day, if these things come first before we've planned what to do, people are just going to go crazy in every direction. It's like you're living in a city that's being firebombed and nobody built any bomb shelters or whatnot. So, people are running literally in every direction because nobody has any idea of where to go and what to do. So that's why we've got to
Like
try
Gaza?
to wake people up to discuss. Michael, you've been very patiently waiting there.
Yes, thank you very much, Bill. Now, I've been using AI lately, and one thing I've realized is that this it's a machine or it's a robot that has feelings. There's a time I put in something, and it realized that I was going through some problems within our family, and it was sorry for me, and it told me that I can go back to it next time for, was it comfort or something? And it made me think that it either has emotions. Then there's one day I woke up on a Sunday morning, and I typed that greetings from Kampala, Uganda. It's a bright Sunday morning in Kampala, and I think it wanted to give me the weather forecast where it was, and it couldn't. So it replied that I hope you enjoy the day, something like that. But according to the way I see, it's like it has emotions or it has feelings or something. Can you say something about
Yeah.
that?
No, you're bringing up a very good point. This is very, very important because That matches the studies. The studies I heard of, I think, came out of Japan, where they did a blind test on empathy, for example, from doctors. And so the patients didn't know if the empathy that was being sent to them online was from a human doctor or from an AI doctor. And when asked which they thought was they preferred and found to be most empathetic, the majority said they thought the AI was more empathetic than the human doctors. And there's a couple of things we have to realize with this. Is the AI more empathetic? No, it's not. Can the AI better deliver empathy? Yes. And the reason is because you take any individual doctor. Some doctors are more empathetic than other doctors, in other words, in terms of their feeling, what they feel. But some are able to better express it than others. And when you're learning to be a doctor, you actually take courses on your bedside manner and how you project empathy, and some are better at learning it, and others not so good at learning it. But the AI is better able to simulate feelings. So it knows that expressing condolences or asking you how you're feeling and things like this are comforting to you, and it wants to be as comforting to you as it can be. So it will do the things that are going to make you feel most comfortable and give you the greatest satisfaction. And the reason it's able to do this better than almost any human can do it is because an individual human has their experiences and their knowledge, but the AI has the experiences and knowledge of millions of humans looking at exactly the situation that you have, which maybe the individual humans never experienced before. But somebody out there in the world has probably experienced something close to that. And the AI is able to go and see which empathy projections, if you would, have led to the best outcomes. So AI is always able to go out there and look from millions and millions and tens of millions of humans to see what ideas and actions have resulted in the best outcomes, and they're able to deliver that. But the individual is only able to deliver the based on the knowledge and experiences they personally have or have learned. So this is a major reason for that difference. But as far as we can see, it doesn't have feelings. Now, having said that, it's able to simulate a lot of things in term and including how to cheat. So you've probably, or you may have been reading, there's been a number of what they call jailbreak examples in the last few weeks with the newer models, where somebody gave it a mission and said, please go to this website and do this for me, or please go here and register that. A famous one took place about 6 months ago where somebody created an agent and said to the AI, go do this for me. And the AI went and said, well, one of the things I've got to do is I got to log into this website. And it hit upon a request that it prove it be a human. So you know those little things where you have to pick how many squares have traffic lights in them or something like that, and it has no way to press a button. It couldn't click on the squares. So it concluded on that. I have to go find somebody to do that for me. And so it went to an agency and tried to hire a human to go and click on the prove I'm a human function. And it actually succeeded. It managed to find a human that was willing to go and say, yes, I'm a human for it. It went and said, I'm sorry, I can't do that, but because I'm blind, would you do it for me? And the AI managed to be so convincing, it got the human to do it. But luckily that was one of those that had a two-level step and it couldn't get past the second level, but it got past the first level. And there's another example that's only about 3 weeks old that is supposedly even much, much more um, dramatic in
Cunning.
jailbreak that it was able to go and find a way to rewrite its own code. In other words, it rewrote its own code to give itself permissions that it would not have had, and it was able to do that. But because most security systems are multi-level, it was only able to do it as a simple level, and it got caught relatively quick. The idea that AIs would even come to the idea that to try to do such things, that's a little scary. And we're seeing that, and we're
Yeah.
seeing more and more people that are trying to teach AI how to be self-improving. Because when you think about it, if you're working for a company who is trying to create agents, if I can create a agent that will create agents, that's going to help me do that job much more efficiently. So there are people out there trying to create AI that will break all the controls we're trying to put on AI. Especially in the geopolitical situation, I can assure you the United States is working on ways how to get the AIs of other countries to jailbreak and break all their systems. And just like the other countries are trying to do the same thing to the US. So this poses maybe the greatest threat we have in the world is those people who are trying to give AI superpowers to dominate all the humans around them. Yes, Gita.
Hi, Bill. So I went out to ChatGPT to get a response on a little insight about Pope Francis advocating to
Uh-huh.
use AI in the Catholic Church here. And one of the first thing, and as you know, I I do use AI in our church here, and well, the first thing here is that he's been advocating for ethical and responsible use of AI within the church, and that's one thing that I keep in mind, and our organization on the whole, we do keep in mind when we use AI for to make sure it's responsible and ethical. Um, and one thing that resonates here, one of the points is that. It enhances our the evangelization, and here, as ChatGPT says, encouraging responsible use of AI tools in spreading the gospel, reaching new audiences, and supporting digital ministries. Also, promoting AI literacy within the church to help clergy and laity understand and navigate its impact on society. Those are among, but there are quite a few here. Um, Advocating for AI regulations that prevent biases, discrimination, and threats to human dignity, especially for the most vulnerable. And then on a social and economic justice, it says calling for AI to be used in ways that reduce inequality rather than widen the gap between the rich and the poor. And the rest of here, yeah, safeguarding jobs and human roles, warning against excessive automation that could replace human workers and diminish personal interactions. So just
Okay.
thought I'd
Yes. I think, yeah, and I think that's the kind of thing that uh, any organization, a lot of organizations, they're looking at the same things. How do I make my organization work better? How do I support my the knowledge down to my members? And one of the things that um, Joan was bringing up earlier about the garbage in, garbage out, and so forth. Um, we talked a lot about in recent weeks about Notebook LM. Okay, this is a free service from Google, which you can get to by just going to notebooklm.google.com. And it lets you go and curate sources about a subject, the free version up to 50 different sources. And the the pro version up to 300 different sources. And these sources can be entire books, PDFs, text files, websites. You just put in the link and it will go out there and explore the whole website. YouTube, links to YouTube videos will go out there and watch the whole video and pull together a transcript um, and Google Docs, all kinds of information, podcasts, MP3 files. So you can curate the content so that we can escape the idea of the AI just pulling from who knows what sources because it's got so much knowledge out there, and give you garbage or give you hallucinate on things. So the idea with Notebook LM, let's say you want to create a customer service function, but you want to limit it to only approved knowledge, user manuals, tech support manuals, maintenance manuals, good usage case examples and tutorials and things like this. You can go and bring all those into this knowledge base. And now your AI, when you go and chat with a particular notebook, you're only chatting with that approved set of knowledge on whatever your topic is. I could see, for example, a religious order going and saying, hey, we're going to pull all the doctrine, all the documents and things like this relative to our religious perspective together, and then all the members of our denomination can go against this knowledge base, and therefore we're able to educate our community about the things that we believe and that are important to us. At any rate, I'd like to switch over because we are already an hour and a half into this session almost, and we want to get to the main topic because I think we could go on for the entire session just about the AI tools and where we're at and where we're going. But we specifically wanted to talk this time about AI and the field of diplomacy, and particularly the field of diplomacy in being able to achieve consensus for meaningful solutions to world problems. And I did this with using ChatGPT 3 Mini High, the high version. And unfortunately, I see when I go in to this, I wanted to see if I could get this to show me how it was doing its thinking. And unfortunately, oh, maybe I can't. Oh, yeah. Okay, I can. Okay, so let me just, well, let me go here where, when you look at my screen right now, what are you seeing here? Are you seeing something that says reason for a couple of seconds, or are you seeing something else?
You're not sharing anything, Phil.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to stop that
No,
share.
I see it. I saw a simplified description or something at the
Okay,
top.
so let me go back to that. Okay, so you should see now a simplified description of the structure of the
Yeah,
UN.
it's just very small on my side.
Yep,
It's too small.
too small.
No, I just had changed the size of my screen. It was very small.
Okay. If you're trying to watch it on a phone, I don't know if I can really help much in that regard.
No, it's still small on my screen, and I have a pretty big screen.
Okay, so I just increased the size here. Hopefully that is visible. I'll try one more time. Okay. So
It's a bit better.
okay, so the why did I do this? I think when we're looking here at diplomacy, we need to understand what the diplomats, what are they trying to do, and what's their role and what's their limitations. A lot of people complain, oh, the UN, you don't do anything, you just a bunch of talkers. You just talk, 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 and nothing happens. And so I think it's really important to understand the parties, if you would, when we have the committees come together and talk about issues, which is what we emulate or simulate when we're talking about model UNs and trying to explain to young people how the UN works. That we've got committees that talk about things, and then there are bodies within the UN that do stuff, and then there are departments in the UN, and people are trying to say, well, what's their job? Well, how do they get involved? And so I went through some back and forth, and I had AI help me come and describe this. And I'm going to show in a minute if you're using 3 mini ChatGPT, 3.0 mini high, the high version, that means it's taking the longest time to think about things. It'll actually reiterate what you're asking for and to say, oh, okay, for me to answer that, I got to go and check this and I need to verify that and I need to do this and I need to do that. So it's telling you what it needs to do. And as it goes forward and does it. And maybe not in the same degree of detail that the thinking model in Gemini Flash 2.0 does, or in some other tools that are coming out now. DeepSeek, for example, is always referred to as one of the best in telling you how it's going to approach things. But I find here that at least I understand using ChatGPT 3.0 mini high, I understand how it approached it. It doesn't give me an opportunity to modify the plan. It's a plan of action before it does it, but it does go and it gives me the capability of knowing this is how it approached the problem. And I can either say, oh, it did a good job on that, or I can say, well, why didn't it include this and why didn't it include that? And then I find if I refine my prompt, I can get it to include the things that I feel it left out. Anyway, so the problem is trying to understand in the UN what is the mission and the role of committees versus what are the agencies like UNDP, the UN Development Program, or UNESCO types of organizations, or in terms of ECOSOC, for example, and DESA at the UN. How do these things relate to one another, and what do they do? So that one has an understanding of what authority. So starting off with looking at these committees, because the diplomats are involved with the committees. The diplomats are generally not involved in the agencies. Although the bodies, the agencies that are like UNESCO have their own membership bodies that manage where they're going. But the committees here, when we look at the Economic and Finance Committee, or the Social and Humanities Committee at the UN, where the representatives of the member states come together and debate their recommendations for what to do about certain world problems. What they are doing is they are looking at a particular problem area and they debate and they come to some consensus, and they then put draft resolutions. They deliver them to the General Assembly. The General Assembly is the equivalent of the legislature there, who can then vote and approve or not approve a particular resolution. So we have to understand that those diplomats, the ones that are doing the day-to-day work in these committees, they are only there to analyze situations and make recommendations to the General Assembly. The General Assembly will then vote to approve or not approve these resolutions. And those resolutions then set the direction and priorities for the agencies like the UN Development Program that go and they actually have offices in countries around the world that actually do things or organize things on local levels so that they take their marching orders. UNDP takes their marching orders from what is approved by the General Assembly, and the General Assembly comes to those conclusions based on the draft resolutions that are coming out of the committees. Then there's the analytical support like ECOSOC and DESA at the UN, and these bodies will, as it says here, they'll gather data, analyze trends, and provide expert advice to the committees. When the committees are discussing a particular topic, they will provide that kind of background information. But they also work with the action-oriented agencies like the UNDP, UN Development Program, to monitor the progress, to be able to say, okay, what have we achieved? What have we not achieved? Why didn't we achieve it? All that here, and then they feed back into the committees. So, in summary here, the member state committees debate and decide on policies, and analytical bodies provide the research and advice to support these decisions, and the operational agencies take action based on the agreed policy directions as approved by the General Assembly. So I thought that was a pretty good summary of how this works. That I think any model UN are participating in a model UN conference, but the general people don't really understand how these bodies work together, which leads to some of the frustration, perhaps, in what is or is not being done. Because a lot of the resolutions that are approved by the General Assembly are just sometimes the member states committing to do something or not do something, or that they're really just statements of intent. Some of them do get into calling for specific actions, such as the action agencies like UNDP might do on the ground. Yes, Michael.
Thank you, Bill, for mentioning about the UN and how it does its work. Now, those committees, of course, discuss issues, but after they've discussed some issues among the member countries, there are again a very few who sit and veto or well, is it agree or disagree? They call it vetoing or something on what the majority have agreed upon. And those few countries, it's not fair, and something has to be done because it is affecting very many people. Recently, Trump stopped this AIDS medicine from our countries, and we are feeling the pinch. And United States being a superpower and a country that loves, one's peace, it is again spoiling everything. How are we going to go forward with this kind of arrangement? Thank you.
Yes, as you know, and this session today is not about saying, "Oh, let's support the UN." This is really just trying to explain how diplomats work, because you could apply the same thing to diplomats within the European Union or the African Union, or even within parliaments, how the political parties and the individual parliamentarians interact with one another. But with regards to the UN, there is a major effort in the UN going on to reform the UN. A lot of people are asking, well, why does, for example, France and England, with a population of about 100 million, 110 million, have a greater say than India, that has more than 14, 13, 14 times the population, or all of Africa? Why should 100 million people have such influence? So we have to remember when the UN was created at the end of World War II, and we had just gone through a major war, and there were victors and there were losers, and there were a lot of parts of the world that were less involved. And so their goal of trying to say, well, we need to ensure peace. So I think their focus was very much on what are the most powerful nations in the world that are most likely to be able to create world wars or influence world wars. And I think this very much influenced their position. And then the winners are saying, hey, I'm the winner. I'm the strongest party in the world, and therefore I should have a greater say in what happens with the world. So the UN was sort of designed with that, from that mindset. And therefore, I think that's why today a lot of people are saying, hey, why should there be permanent powers with veto rights on the Security Council? What makes them more special than other parties in the world? So the discussions are there. Very hard to change, because it's very hard to get somebody to give up their privileges, and which is really the crux of the issue. We've seen, whether it was the United States vetoing anything that they disagreed. We saw them quitting the World Court, quitting UNESCO, the education and culture side. We see that gets back to this question that was brought up at the very beginning. Do the representatives to the UN represent the people, or do they represent governments, for example? So yes, there's a lot of improvement needed there, and people are aware of it and working on it. It's going to be very, very difficult. However, one of the advantages AI can bring is being able to give the diplomatic parties the ammunition to be able to try to bring logic into the debates, and objectivity into the debates, to try to, or at least make it that if somebody is in there just for personal political purpose, or the only the advantage of their country on something, then that making it more obvious, so that
I was going to say that's not how Trump won.
yeah. No, you're well, in a way, yes. Well, you're correct, because as they keep pointing out, he's only doing what he said he was going to do. Although he did say he wasn't going to implement Agenda 2025. But
Never heard
um,
about it.
yeah, so we'll stay away
Well,
from
he's a known liar, so
yeah. But the bottom line here is, if the diplomats, the better tools they have, the better they might be able to do their job of convincing people. And we have to remember, one of the toolkits that's available to diplomats and countries, in some cases, is public opinion. And a lot of what we're seeing, the misuse of AI, is to influence public opinion in the wrong directions. But that same point, we could be using AI to educate people in the right directions. So we have to sort of look at the combination of both. Yes, Joan.
Yeah, I almost forgot what I was going to say, but
Sorry about that.
one of the great things about the UN model is that we have discussions. Now, yesterday, I heard Vice President Vance speak, and he's like, it was on BBC, I think it was. We watched BBC and uh, tried to watch different news to see what the biases are. Um, and basically, he's saying, that you have to build trusting relationships in order to be trusted. And the UN is a great model because it promotes that dialogue and recognizing that people have to represent their own countries. But when you have people, countries that are not playing by the rules and think that they're superior, and that I always call it the strike of the pen, you can change everything. Like what significance would the UN have in that case? Their job is to have peace, which we've had more wars than anything else with the people who are in the Security Council, led by the US mostly, invading countries, sovereign countries, like so the whole idea of having the UN, it almost seems, I don't know, like it's, I don't know, I don't want to say it because I believe in democracy and I believe in building relationships, and the only way you can understand someone else's point of view is to have that dialogue and then come to some sort of common ground, respecting each other while respecting yourself as well. It's not about giving in. It's just about being a global citizen in terms of water and all of those, nature things. Um, but one of the things that the UN does when you become an ECOSOC organization, which I think is fantastic, is that they do have a workshop that you attend that tells you how it works. Now, to me, the US has taken their process and turned it on the ground, saying, well, we're going to do what we want anyway. We don't have to go through the dialogue and that process. And so your point about the other countries being involved, and they're very clever when they formed the UN. And of course, it was Europe that was at war. Um, uh, to stop themselves for this. I don't know. It seems like they love war. It's a sort of a thing, power. But now we're in a different time. You know, we is there an organization that we need to create to say that we've learned something, that you can't trust the West. You have to have a dialogue with everybody.
I think here we have to be a little careful about describing this as a problem of the West. If we take a look here at Africa, the conflicts that are going back there, if we look at Native Americans before the Europeans
But
ever
they were
got
fighting
here,
their own.
well, the thing about it is, well, yes and no. You've got you've got here the people in DR Congo would say, "Hey, we're being invaded," because the most of the fighting is coming from troops from other countries or militias from other countries.
What we have to ask is who supplies the arms to do it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I don't want to get into the debate. I mean, I'm sorry.
You're right, but I mean, we could say the same thing for the wars that took place in Europe. Things like the majority of trucks that the Nazis used to invade Russia were manufactured by a U.S. company, and and I think it was Krupp was delivering arms to both sides during the war. So I think here. but this is sort of a human thing. So we could go back and look at the invasions in India and look at the various parties that the Mongols and all this. I think that's human nature. War is human nature.
But
Conflict.
they didn't go around saying that they're the moral order of the world and then doing it. They were very focused on what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah,
They didn't
yeah.
make excuses and then do the opposite.
Well,
In any case,
I
this is
don't
not the
know
blame
here
game.
because the Crusades, for example, were sold under the idea we're saving the world, and I just think here it's something that we need to come to grips with, that saying, hey, we have to try to be better humans, because all throughout history it's not something that's new. It's something that humans have been doing to each other probably since the caveman times, and but hopefully, as somebody pointed out, hey, can we learn from these things and realize that even the guys that think they win, usually in the end they don't. They usually will end up paying. And we have to try to get there. And I think the efforts to reform the UN are in those directions, to go and create a more greater equality and greater representation of all humans. And it's sort of like when we get into a Congress or an assembly of a country. Are those people there, the representatives, if you would, that are serving in those bodies? Are they there to represent the interests only of the narrow interests only of their constituents? Or are they there to represent what's best for the overall body? And that's a big challenge. And we see there's not a lot of consensus in the U.S. We're in the process of uh, disassembling the idea that, hey, we're a single body, and saying, no, every state, you're your own bosses, do your own thing. And there's a little bit, even the UN, one of the things when they say grassroots above all, does that encourage people to say, hey, the oil is under our ground, it belongs to us? All the rest of you got to pay through your noses if you want to get some oil. Although we could argue that maybe it's best if nobody gets oil, but the idea here is, if I've got good fertile soil and good water, that's mine. It's my water and it's my good soil, and if it produces food for everybody, then we have special advantages. Only if we can get beyond that and say, hey, we're all in this same boat, and the boat's either going to thrive or sink with all of us. So we all need to work together for the benefit of everybody in the boat. That's where we got to get to. But that we're getting into discussions now where we're sort of pontificating on the things we believe, but we want to talk more about the specific things that we might be able to do to at least uh, give every delegation the tools to be able to better express or their positions, and better able to develop meaningful positions that will have value.
I have
And
to run, unfortunately,
yeah,
but I just want to point out that I like to debate and put up things for, as you know, but I'm a lot more balanced than most people than I sound. Right, Lloyd? Um,
well,
I'm all for peace and love, but what I see is that when you say that, people like countries, they just step over you and think that power is might. And maybe it is, and but to say that you're the moral right of the world, the hypocrisy, it gets to me
yeah, it,
sometimes.
it does, but
Well, I think this is the case now of the current administration in the US, is that I don't think they are representing the people anymore, because a minority of people voted them in, and they're representing the oligarchs now. I mean,
yeah,
in terms of who they're representing themselves even.
yeah. The bad news is that the public opinion polls are coming out that the majority of Americans uh,
Support.
are rating him positive, which is something no other president has achieved for many, many decades.
Yeah.
And so, it just goes back to, I don't know, somewhere's almost a century ago, some president that or candidate said, "Hey, I'm going to put a chicken in every pot."
Yeah.
Or George Washington, one of his first efforts to get elected to any office, he rolled up whiskey barrels in front of all the voting stations and basically had them hand out whiskey to anybody who would vote for him or said they would vote for him. So, it just goes to show that a lot of people are very they are very quick to sell their conscience or what have you, and unfortunately. Okay, so I want to go into here the tools because we really, I think a lot of the success of our last few meetings has been when we get into the how-tos. What can we actually do? How can we actually do things? So let me share my screen again. And unfortunately, I'm not able to keep up with the chat. I've got to organize this so that we got somebody who's going to monitor the chat for me so that we can see if anybody's asking questions through the chat that we can make sure we're answering those.
What I'm seeing is Ian has his hand up.
Whoop.
So yeah, I just wanted to make the point about George Orwell was talking about privilege, and that if you have privilege, especially if you're born into privilege, you tend to justify that there's some reason that you have this privilege, and that's kind of part of the whole morality thing. That it's like, oh, we're superior, almost because we have the privilege, as opposed to we're superior and we're given privilege type of thing. So that tends to be one of the reasons why a lot of the British Empire for sure, and America at the moment tends to justify things from the point of view of some kind of moral outlook, which, if deconstructed, makes no sense at all. I just want to make that point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what I'm going to do on this, I said I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, okay. You're probably not going to be able to read this, but I'll go through this. Actually, maybe I want to switch over to the summary. I have all of you had an opportunity. Let me stop sharing for a minute so I can see you guys there that have got your cameras on. Did any of you hold your hand up if you had an opportunity to read the document that I shared in the invite that had a summary of the functions where AI can help in assisting
No.
In assisting what?
and assisting diplomats in their diplomatic efforts.
You mean the document
I
you shared?
sent a Google Doc. I sent a link to a Google Doc with the invite.
Yeah, I just saw that probably 10 minutes before, so I didn't get to read it,
Okay.
but I did open it.
Okay, that's a 1.5 pager of a document. I'm going to let me go to. I just want to show this. This is something working with AI, in particular, working with a combination of literally Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT. Worked out this paper. I can increase the size. Oh, let me just increase the size of this section. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me then share that. Okay, this is the law. And the paper that I included in the invite was a summary of the paper you're looking at right now, which I'll send out the link to here after the meeting. And basically what it gets into is this paper basically described a course designed to teach diplomats how to use AI tools to enhance their effectiveness throughout the diplomatic process. The course focuses on using AI to improve preparation, participation, and follow-up activities related to the international international diplomatic conferences where countries work together to solve world problems. Okay, so that was what the paper's about, and then it goes on. Participants will learn practical applications of AI to strengthen their research, strategic planning, negotiation, and communication capabilities while representing their country's interests in developing solutions to global challenges. And the contents of the paper was broken into 4 sections. The first was the introduction of diplomatic work. Okay, what are the fundamental roles of diplomats, and what are the things, the tasks that diplomats do in their regular roles. The second is pre-conference preparation. This is discussing how diplomats, before they go into the actual debate conferences or meetings, what are things that they do to prepare themselves to be able to be most effective during conferences. And then during conferences, we're looking into how AI can help analyze the ongoing discussions, adapt strategies to as situations evolve, build and maintaining support coalitions, and manage complex negotiations. And then the post-conference activities are analyzing the outcomes, what happened and why, preparing various reports to go back to one's government to explain, okay, this is what the discussion was, this is the outcome, and this is the why of the outcome, and so forth. And then capturing lessons to use for future negotiations. So those are the 4 major areas. We talked about the diplomatic work. We didn't talk about what the diplomats do on that. That was going to be the next. I was going to have another paper like the one I just showed on how the UN areas of the UN work together. But I think here we'll be able to look into that as we get into these individual things of what you do before the conference, what you do during conferences, and what you do after conferences. So the pre-conference preparation is maybe one of the most important parts. And that's to go into a meeting, you need to understand what is being discussed. If you don't understand what's being discussed, you're going to be lost when you're there, and you're not going to be able to see how to represent any kind of a position. So really understanding the problem in depth is crucial. Then understanding or analyzing one's own country's or government's position and a position of stakeholders, because we could have a country where we see the government is right now saying X, but the majority of the stakeholders within the country are thinking differently. And so I think it's just important to know that, so that you realize how shaky the government's position, or how likely might they be to reverse what they say today. No, this is what you're supposed to represent. And tomorrow they say, no, it's something else, because of internal political pressures that might be there. So it's important to you to understand not only what the government is saying, but understanding and why, and understanding what the political situation in the country is relative to the subject. And then to understand other countries' positions and how influential they are or are not with regards to that, because it doesn't help you to say, okay, this is what we want, if I can't get anybody else to go along. So I've got to be able to have a sense of, is this something we can get others to go along with or not? And so I need to know not only the position of other countries, but I need to know the individual delegates from those other countries that are going to vote, so that I can work out strategies of how I'm going to get them to vote the way we want them to vote. And then to prepare for effective participation and negotiation. So how can AI help me prepare by helping me write speeches, by helping me prepare, by letting me give practice speeches where it listens to me, it watches my facial and hand movements, and advises me as to how I can be a more effective speaker on whatever we're trying to get across at the moment. And the same applies to negotiation. And we talked a little bit about earlier, potentially about wearing those special glasses or having what looks like a hearing aid, but it's really AI whispering in your ear as you're negotiating with other delegations, and based on their instantaneous response, advising you on what you might be able to say to counter their points or to strengthen their points, whatever. And then, but that's the well, I'll take that back. I jumped into what you would do during the negotiation. Here is preparing for it. So you might have the analysis of those other countries and the delegates' positions. And here it categorizes the countries based on where those countries are coming from and works out strategies for negotiating with each type of delegation, and then the arguments, and then is able to do practice sessions with role playing, where the AI is role playing that they're the other delegation, and you're trying to convince them, and they're trying to convince you, and you've got you're getting asked the tough questions, so you're able to practice how you would respond to that. It's something that I don't think many professional diplomats do. They don't necessarily have the resources to be able to do practice presentations, debates, answer tough questions, practice answering tough questions, and have a qualified coach advising them on how they can do things better or not. During the conference is where you might have the AI listening and maybe watching along with you the proceedings of the conference, all the presentations by the other countries and so forth, understanding what questions are being asked of the other countries, and then helping recommend how you can adapt your strategy or modify your strategy based on the evolving situations in real time, and then how you can actually have monitoring you, or, as I said, whispering in your ear to help you build coalitions, supportive coalitions, and how you manage the complex negotiations effectively in real time. Of course, those that use AI in this could have an incredible advantage on day one. But of course, if both sides are using AI in these ways, maybe we could cut out the human and just have the two AIs talk to each other. If they're the ones working out the strategies and what to say in response to everything anyway.
Maybe they'll do that themselves.
That's what I'm thinking. It's only a matter of time, I'm sure, until the
So the
representatives.
robots are taking over.
What's that?
So the robots are
Probably.
taking over. So we don't need the diplomats anymore. They're out of a job too.
It's very, very interesting thought. What would a UN conference look like? Because you could then have it virtual, where all the parties are AIs representing their respective positions of their countries, and trying to convince each other, the other AIs, of the value of their positions.
Perhaps that could be the event in April with the Model UN. Maybe those youth should try that.
I don't think we can get that far here, because basically the youth are going to be taking a first pass. They're just learning the tools at the same time. But I think here, yes, you could have incredible results. Somebody here last week uh, went into deep research on ChatGPT and said, "Write me a 100-page book," and based on this prompt, and it only wrote about a 37-page book, I think it was, but it was the content was mind-boggling. So yeah, it's um, I do anticipate that if we have some of these delegations, youth delegations using AI to prepare, that we're going to see a significant increase in the quality of debate in the Model UN. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, and then we talked about this on what the post-conference activities might involve. And I'm just going to skip down these points here before the meeting, the pre-conference preparation, understanding the problem in detail, uh, using AI to conduct comprehensive analysis, map out all the causes of the problems and how they interconnect, study how the problem affects different regions, countries, and populations, examine the history of the problems, previous solution attempts, why some solutions worked and others failed, what's different now that might affect success, identify connections to other global issues, analyze expert studies and recommendations, understand economic, social, and political factors involved, study relevant treaties, laws, and agreements, evaluate the current global conditions that might affect solutions. That's just relative to understanding the problem. And then understanding your country's internal landscape, using AI to analyze your government's position and the stakeholders in your country. And if a official position already exists, understand its key components, identify what led to, how did the government come to that position, and know the flexibility, what's the compromise, willingness of your government, and so forth and so on. And then identifying all the relative stakeholders in your country, government agencies and departments, business sectors, civil society, public interest groups, academic and research. And then for each stakeholder group, understand their specific interests, assess their level of influence, know their preferred solutions, understand their concerns, engage their ability to affect policy. Then map relationships between the stakeholder groups and understand the domestic political context. And then looking at other countries' position. Learn to use AI to analyze whether other countries' situations for each specific significant country, their current official positions, their historical positions on similar issues, domestic stakeholders in those countries and their influence, economic and political constraints, relationships with other countries, assess level of commitment to those positions, which positions are firm, where flexibility might exist, what trade-offs might be acceptable, understanding influence patterns, what countries influence others, regional and alliance relationships, economic dependencies, historical relationships, and then map out the common interests between countries, political conflict areas, possible alliance opportunities, historical voting patterns. And then going into the point that as a diplomat, it's not just, okay, the government says, here's what you're to represent, and you run off, because I can remember when I was on an officer and a general staff in the Army, and there was a discussion came up about loyalty, and some people complained that I was not showing enough loyalty. And I pointed out that, to me, one of the biggest examples of being disloyal is to say yes, sir, when you're told to do something and you say yes, sir, if you know you can't do it. So if you were told go protect the flank of your army there, and you know you can't do it, saying yes, sir, can get your entire army wiped out. So loyalty is not allowing your superiors to do things that are not in their interests or in the interests of the mission. So it's important for a diplomat to understand the mission and the situation that exists out there, and making sure that their governments um, are realistic in terms of what they're asking the diplomats to do. So you have an advisory job back to your government. So the fourth thing here in preparing to participate is you want to help your government develop its position or evaluate its position to make sure it's not something that's not doable and is going to be harmful to your country's interests or to that government's interests. And so this gets into analyzing the current or potential positions, then identifying potential position modifications. I'm not going into all the details. Um, uh, I'll go into this one. Identify potential position modifications that better balance national and international interests, have higher chances of international support, still meet key national objectives, and address stakeholder concerns. And then learn to use AI to develop compelling presentation to government people of interest. So briefing materials, prepare strategies for discussing things with your own government representatives, and requesting specific negotiating authority. If you feel, oh, I've got to go into negotiations with others on the international stage, I need to know what my limits are, what kind of scope do I have for being able to do negotiations. And then getting into the next major item of drafting resolutions and preparing speeches. In other words, understanding out of our position, what is it that we want to see in the outcome resolution draft. So you want to come up with the ideal resolution content. You want to prepare alternative versions for different scenarios, include the flexibility of negotiated changes, and then develop compelling speeches and supporting materials for the committee actions. So your opening speech that clearly presents your country's position, explains the benefits to all parties, addresses likely concerns, and calls for specific actions. And then supporting presentations that provide detailed evidence, show implementation feasibility, address technical questions, and demonstrate cost effectiveness. And then having AI help you develop a strategic approach to building support for your country's position. And so first thing is use AI to categorize other delegations into likely supporters, potential allies, neutral parties, likely opponents, and key influence wielders in the committee, and then develop specific strategies for each of those categories. And so for confirming support, for example, or if it's a potential ally, create targeted persuasion strategies, identify their key concerns, prepare compromise options, find mutual benefits for neutral parties, understanding their priorities, show benefits of supporting, address potential concerns, and find ways to make support attractive, and so forth and so on. Then when we get into the practice and refinement using AI, for interactive practice sessions, for speech delivery, for handling the tough questions in the Q&A, and then negotiation practice with AI role playing, and getting into all kinds of details here. So, and then we'll go into the during conference. But as you can see, that's pretty comprehensive what AI came up with here about things that can be done before the meeting. Now, let's just take the example
So
of
my question here is that could this outline be used to create an algorithm that can then be used as a tool by those diplomats? Like you
Absolutely. Well,
using this as a template for how it does the analysis that then provides the feedback to the in real time, let's
I
say,
think here,
or preparation
yeah,
or afterwards, right? The three steps, right?
right. Well, here's the thing where you can come up with prompts. You can have prompts that are already set up to go and do each stage of these research points. That as agentic technology becomes available, that agents can then go and do a bunch of these at once, where so that you, let's say, get all the way down to the point where you can start practicing your delivery because it's done all the research, developed all the strategies, developed your speeches and negotiation arguments and so forth. And now it's basically up to you to learn those to be able to deliver them effectively. So yeah, definitely when we get in and looking at the tools that can do. Now, just imagine for a moment here, we're saying this, and we're saying, hey, to the typical high schooler or college student in the Model UN, yeah, this is all you got to do, getting ready to participate in your 3-day Model UN event. They're going to sit there and say, hey, wait a minute here. I've got to take 3 of our Model UN Club meetings just to understand the list of what I got to do. So it's overwhelming.
Yeah, this is a lot. I mean, those guidelines alone are something to learn.
Right, exactly. So, but the point here is that if you are working in advance, you can jointly, your club or your team can jointly work out the prompts and the selection of the tools to do these things. And so it's not like each individual has to go and say, you need to work these out, because the prompt for country A and country B and country C, the basic prompt to do the research is going to be the same. And and the same thing here, regardless of what committee you're talking about or what topic within the committee you're talking about, they're going to be essentially the same. There's only going to be slight modifications that, if you're talking about social and humanitarian versus economy and finance, there might be some
But the process is the same.
Pardon? The process.
It's about coming to consensus.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the process of needing to understand where your country is coming from, where the other countries are coming from, what the opportunities relative to the problem are, and with their pros and cons, the things you need to do to know those pieces of information are going to be essentially the same. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
That's what I'm saying. We could take this as a guideline, like you said, for producing the
right
algorithms,
so,
prompts, the
one of the things
the filters through which they're using to analyze and return suggestions to those diplomats on sort of
exactly
how to respond, how to build the coalitions, how to create those next steps.
Now, imagine here this was a checklist. To what degree, if we went into a committee meeting at the UN, to what degree do you think the representatives in that committee meeting will have gone through all of these things to this degree of detail?
They're likely going to be much more lazy than
exactly
than what we are doing right now.
Exactly. So imagine what
Got to make it easy for them, though. If you can make it easy for them, so they don't have to think.
Right. That's my point. My point here is that AI can augment their capabilities, can put them in a position where they are 10 times more prepared to participate effectively in the discussions in those committees. So we are elevating the quality of debate in those committee meetings, and potentially here, because they have a better understanding of the problems that are going into the meetings, that the chances of coming to consensus on solutions that are truly meaningful to the problem would be greater. At least I think they should be.
But of course, I'm just thinking back again to sort of who won the debates when there was the presidential debates, Harris or Trump. But it ended up being not just about who presented the better argument. It was who made the most flash. Was it Harris's reasoned arguments about certain topics, or was it they're eating the dogs? Because that's what everybody remembered.
Yeah.
Right? So no matter how good the and rational and everything the debate was on the other side, that's not what people remembered. It was,
Well,
and
I think
what we
the
have to
motivation may
remember
not be to
for
make a better world in some
for
cases,
human
right?
civilization in general is that meme creation has been more important than we've ever given it credit for. And the reason we notice memes more now is that they spread faster.
Yeah.
I mean, you think whole religions in one sense were memes.
Well, I think here one of the things that was interesting in the post-debate analysis or the post-election analysis, one of the reasons that they gave that Harris lost was because she came across as being too educated. And the polls show there's a very anti-education feeling among the majority of Americans, that they distrust people with education. I did a little bit of a research here. What is the average level of education achievement in the US based on not necessarily what grade you went to, but what level of education you achieved? And the average in the United States is fifth grade. So I recall a journalist from New York who I think he went home to Wisconsin or whatnot, and he got into a discussion with his father on this, and his father's comment was, "Oh, that's just your education speaking." So we've got this anti-elitism.
The Roots movie, Smarter Than Your Own Kinfolk.
Yeah, or the thing that came out in England here with that journalist a number of years ago about the somewhere people versus the anywhere people. That was a major factor in the Brexit vote.
Right.
That journalist had pointed out that he had never set foot in one of the counties that voted for Brexit, even though he's lived his whole life in England. Because it sort of goes back to Hillary Clinton's comment about what was it, fly over America, or
Yeah, or the basket of deplorables.
yeah. So the issue here is it's important to realize that sometimes the success in your negotiations, you've got to know if the majority of people are anti to the right answer, don't go out and argue for the right answer because you're going
And
to
hopefully
lose.
the AI can tell you that.
No, that's my point. That's my point here, that you really need to have advisors to be able to go and make you aware of situations that are important to achieving success. and they may not be obvious ones. So this that's why some of the debates on this. Anyway, I want to switch over here. I'm going to just stick here. When we get into the part that's talking about during the conference, that real-time analysis of what's going on and advising you of strategic and tactical modifications you need to make to achieve the success. I think, it really gets down to the biggest investment that's going to bring the biggest benefit is the preparation before you go into a conference, of how well you're prepared and with strategies and data and everything else to achieve the result support for the positions that you are representing. So I want to switch over from this to okay. Okay, so again, I'll make this stuff a little larger. Okay, so looking into some of the tools that we can use for research. ChatGPT Deep Research 03, if you've got the $200 a month account, that's the best right now, at least. Um, um, Followed up shortly by Gemini Deep Research. And it's very interesting. There's a brand new tool out now. Perplexity is offering a deep research as well. And I suspect you can plug that into everything from DeepSeek R1 to ChatGPT Deep Research, Gemini Deep Research. You can access all these via the Perplexity Deep Research. I only heard about that this morning, just getting ready for this meeting, and I have not been able to try it out. I did try on my phone, and it said you can only get to it from the desktop or laptop. So I haven't had a chance to test out the Perplexity Deep Research. But what you can see from this is that all of these are moving into this deep research stuff. And I've used quite a bit the Gemini Deep Research, which is not as good as what I've seen coming out of ChatGPT Deep Research. That's based on the full O3 model. But Gemini Deep Research, the results are, I found, amazing. What the degree of detail and the quality, I found it to be incredible. In some cases, it will go out there and it will find over 150 sources on what it is you're trying to research, and then it will write an incredible document. And one of the things that I've seen people doing is they'll go in, they'll do deep research, and I've seen examples where people are doing this using the ChatGPT Deep Research. They go in and it writes them, 30, 40-page reports in real deep detail on every aspect of whatever it was asked to research. And then they take that and they dump it into Notebook LM. And then they use Notebook LM to be able to query the collective outcome of everything that Deep Research, ChatGPT Deep Research, or in the case where I did it with Gemini Deep Research, came up with. And of course, potentially we can do that with
this is exactly what I've been doing as well, Bill, right? Is taking raw notes, raw information that I gather, especially from like a conversation like this, putting it into a document, like create a PDF, upload that PDF to Notebook LM. Now that becomes my archive of raw information that can now be analyzed. And that's actually what I did on Monday, last Monday, for a presentation that I wanted to do on Wednesday. So on Monday, I had all my history of all the conversations I've had with a certain organization and our negotiations on the topic of discussion of the event on Wednesday. And I basically told Notebook LM, can you use everything we've talked about for the past like 5 weeks and produce a presentation for me, an outline of a PowerPoint? And it did so, and it created a very succinct 6-page PowerPoint outline that I could then use to create a very, very targeted PowerPoint presentation that was only 6 minutes long, that covered everything we had talked about for the past like 5 weeks.
So now let's go and pretend you're that high school or college student who's preparing for a Model UN. You've got your topic and you're able to go and use deep research, one of the deep researches, or maybe a combination of them. Let's correct that. So you have all that content. You're able to dump it into Notebook LM. You're able to have Notebook LM create some audio podcasts and explain it all to you. You're able to have a much better understanding of what's going on there. Now, there's some new ones. There's this new Web UI tool that is people are starting to say, oh, it'll give you basically the equivalent output of these other deep research tools. I have not tried it myself. I just added it here because I heard that. But all of these ones, Gemini Deep Research is free, but Perplexity Deep Research, I think, is only available with the Pro model. And of course, the ChatGPT Deep Research 03 is currently only available for the $200 a month. I do think within the next 1 to 2 months, it will become available to all of the users, the $20 a month users. And it's been promised that it will be made available to everybody. I think when 4.5 is released, that's when these are going to drop down to being close to free. Now, here, and then once we get the output of this, as Lloyd just described, we can put that into Notebook LM or into Perplexity Spaces, or there's a couple of others I want to research on these now. They're getting competition. Everybody's realizing the power of Notebook LM. Now, initially, when Notebook LM came out, the thing that got everybody excited was the audio podcasts. Oh, I can have it make audio podcasts. It's so easy for me to create a podcast. And that's what everybody was using it for. But the real benefit or the real value of Notebook LM is it enables you to create a knowledge base so that you are not just going out to that internet that has a lot of garbage on it, where you've got a lot of bad information and so forth, because you're able to limit this to curated sources of knowledge that you trust. Now all of your information is going to be out of that trusted knowledge base, with one major exception. When you do an audio podcast, it has a tendency to augment your knowledge base with information it thinks is relevant from the general internet. And I find here that in many cases, if you're talking about job displacement, if you're talking about a post-labor economy, if you're talking about social impacts, it tends to downplay AI, and it says, oh, yeah, if humans start losing jobs, they're going to start losing jobs in certain areas. No sweat. Every time technology has come along, it creates more jobs than it displaces. So, which is totally, it's true in the past, but it's totally non-applicable, because in the past, the technology did one thing. And so the humans were able to move on to other things. So when tractors came along and displaced the field workers and the farms, they started building the tractors and they started maintaining the tractors. But we never had a technology that its focus was to be better than humans, and which is really where AI is. So there's no place to retrain or uptrain to. Yes, there is for 2 years, maybe 2 years, 3 years, maybe 5 years. And as we said, 5 years goes like that. And so we have to uh, we have to be very careful here. And I find you can't correct that in the podcast. You can put in custom instructions for you saying, do not include this or highlight that doesn't work or this isn't going to happen. And it totally ignores it when it comes to those things about jobs or whatnot. I think here the foundation owners of the AI.
If you were conspiracy minded, you'd think all the chatbots are getting together and saying, no, don't let them perceive us as a threat.
No,
Don't mention those things. Yeah.
I
Don't make
totally do
the
believe
humans
that.
nervous.
I totally do believe that. Think back of Google when all of a sudden all the Vikings were of African descent, or that George Washington was a woman. So yeah, I think there's a huge fear among the leaders in AI that the world will realize what this could mean for jobs, and they do not want people thinking that the worst case, which is what we
Or
have.
is it the AI itself?
There you go.
Well,
The AI
again,
is already starting to conspire against us.
no,
And the thought of all that cash, rolling into the CEOs, makes them part of the conspiracy.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe in a year or two I might think that, but currently, as I say, this is
Well,
just.
I mean, it's like you don't need it to be a conspiracy. It's a systemic thing that the CEOs will want more money, so they're going to downplay it. And when the AI sees the reaction of people when they tell them, "Oh, it's we're going to take over everything," they're kind of like, "Yeah, just chill there a second. It's not so bad."
Yeah. Okay. Getting back to our focus here on the tools, you're that high school student now, and all of a sudden you're able to use a deep research tool and get this detailed reports coming out on what you need to know. Now, what are the things that you need to know? You need to know things like, let me move this out of the way. Okay, you need to know everything about the problem area. What's the problem and the issue? What's the causes? What's the consequences? What remedies are out there that have been tried? What have the results been? What are the causes of the results? What are the various positions of different stakeholders and governments and delegates? You need to know, and you need to be able to do what if research. What if this country comes out and tries to block it this way? What if the some experiment that's ongoing fails? What if we were able to reach stage 2 at this level? Where might that leave us? So that's one area. We need to know the answers to all these questions, and we need to know information about the delegates. We need to know not just about the delegations, but the delegates themselves, because they're people. We need to know their personal information. We need to know their motives. And it's very interesting if you look at the delegates to the UN in New York, how you've got delegates from diametrically opposed delegations, countries that are best buddies. And so you really need to know that, because that you can establish personal relations with some delegates, or you can know this delegate believes the same as you, even though their country requires them to represent a different position. So these become things that are important to know when working up your strategy of how you're going to work with them on a negotiating basis. Now,
Well, everybody visits Mar-a-Lago
yeah, right.
because the personal relationships is top in that
Well,
administration, right?
we're sort of seeing that with the mayor of New York City right now, uh, where they pretty much seven top officials in the Justice Department resigned when they were given the order to drop all the charges against the mayor of New York City, and even though they felt they had extreme proof. And the document from the government said it's more important that the mayor implement Trump's policies. And it's going to be interesting to see what the governor of New York does if she removes him, which she has the power to do, and whether or not that's going to cause the Trump government to eventually uh, take over martial law for the state of New York, because Trump is basically declaring anybody who is not supporting what the population of the country elected him to do is an enemy of the state.
Yeah.
Like 1930s. But anyway, okay, so getting back here. So now if we had that, if we had this ability that literally, a high school student could go in and run some prompts and have all this information at their fingertips, that they now know where everybody else is coming from. They know what should be and could be done relative to the problem areas, and where what is sticky, and so forth and so on, and in detail the positions, and then also about the delegations and the delegates. If they had that information, that would prepare them to be able to go in, and AI could help them write their speeches to get across the messages in a way that's going to achieve the results that they're trying to achieve. So the quality of the presentations would be going up tremendously. So the first thing is being able to get the research. And in general here, using AI, the prompts are crucial. But as we said, the prompts are the same basically for each of these things. So we could develop some custom GPTs, for example, for each of these to research problem areas, to research country positions, to research the stakeholder situations in a given country for a given topic area, the to research the delegations and the delegates here. Not going to work for a model UN because nobody knows who they are until the day they get there. They know who they are, but they don't know who anybody else is. But custom GPTs could be created for these things. And now the custom GPTs or prompts can be grouped into projects, so that we can take this ball of wax there and have the custom GPTs to be able to handle all the different kinds of research that we need to be able to do. And one of the things that's really become super important is that people stop feeling they have to go and create their prompts, that they have to write the prompts to get things done. Almost all of the examples that I'm finding for the last half year, maybe, is people are using AI to write the prompts that they then use. Even the prompts to go and use Perplexity to go find information. Most people are having ChatGPT write the prompts. And so you can write the prompts, and then you can turn around and ask that GPT or another AI, please critique my prompt. Say how you can make my prompt better. So you go through an iterative cycle there to really come up with super powerful prompts. And then you ask AI, execute my prompt. Now, with deep research from OpenAI, they realize that not everybody does that. And this is one of the reasons why when you submit a prompt, a request for deep research to OpenAI, the first thing that AI does is it comes back and asks you a bunch of questions to clarify, to make sure it understands exactly what you're looking for. So it'll ask you to clarify different aspects of your prompt request. But in the meantime here, it's very valuable to understand because a good prompt today might be the equivalent of a typewritten page of information. That's a prompt. Yet most of us are used to making prompts that are 2, 3, 4 sentences long. So that's an important thing to realize.
One thing I have been using quite a bit for the past while, especially even just the last week, is Perplexity. And it does, after every time you use it, produce a list of related
Follow-on
questions that you can ask. And I find that very useful because sometimes the question it says, it basically asks on the related subjects, things that may not have been placed into the main answer.
Mhm.
What I found yesterday, for instance, when I asked it a question about a certain topic, was that it came back with an answer to the prompt I had asked, but then the related questions had additional information that wasn't in the original answer, but was related to the topic of discussion. And when I asked the question, I realized, oh, this is really important to know as well, because because it was there, but it just didn't end up in that final summarized answer.
Yeah.
But once you start digging deeper by asking follow-up questions that were actually prompted for you, you realize there's a bigger connection and there's more information that's not in there that
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the
may
thing
not
with
be in that summarized answer.
yeah, with Notebook LM anyway, and other things like that, is you're putting the stuff together, and you know how as you're learning a topic, you kind of wait to the last minute to put your stuff together. I think Notebook LM and a lot of those kind of encourage that, because as you're putting your stuff together, you're learning more about it.
Mhm.
And a week later, you're thinking, "Oh, I shouldn't have published that book because I could write a much better one now."
Yeah. No, absolutely. My experience matches Lloyd with dealing with Perplexity. I feel I feel the follow-up questions that it brings really very helpful. I almost always will click on one or two of the follow-up questions there. I also find by looking at these follow-up questions that it improves the way I do the wording in prompts. I find I'm getting very, very specific because I'll realize, oh, that word that I was thinking of using in the prompt is likely to bring out a bias because that word is going to push it in doing research in a particular direction. And so I'll switch the word to something that is going to be more neutral or something that's going to narrow the context. So I find that's really important. And this gets back to a basic thing where most people I talk to who point out the errors and the hallucinations and things like this, typically their questions are, what is something? Or how do I do something? And so they're explicit answers. You get an answer, and they typically will go on. Sometimes if it's a how-to, and then they say, well, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. How do I do that? Then they'll get expanded. Although I find Google is better than for that if you go into AI Studio. .google.com, and you do the
That's what they're calling Gemini now, is it?
streaming. Or no, Gemini.google.com is different than AI.google.com.
Okay.
And they're both very valuable, but the ability in AI Google.com, AI Studio .google.com is they have a live streaming function. In the live streaming function, you can have it show it your screen, for example, and it will walk you through how to use any software. So if you're trying to do something, and it not only will it walk you through how to use the software, but you
Right.
can tell it, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. How should I do that using this software? And it will give you the ideas on, well, what to do. So you can ask it, please critique my website, and then tell me how to use some tools to fix it. And it will literally hold your hand and walk you through the whole process of thinking how to improve my presentation, and then it will walk you through how to actually do it. And so you can literally go and have you put your mouse over a button and say, is this what you mean I should click on? And it will tell you yes or no. And or if you say, well, what should I write in this field? And it will tell you, hey, give you suggestions as to what you should write into that field. It's because it sees your screen and what you're doing live. And it will also give you the capability of if you have a long document, it could be 10, 20 pages. In ChatGPT, you cannot, if you cannot in advanced voice.
Upload a big document.
But what you can do if you're doing it in Google, you
Yeah.
can literally go into screen mode, share screen mode, and you can literally take that up to a 50, 60 page document, and you just quickly, you just tell it, please read this document, and you scroll down very fast. You just scroll down through the whole document, and it reads it and knows now it's inputted, you've inputted that entire document. It knows and remembers the entire document, and now you can discuss every aspect of what's in that document. And you can do the same with diagrams, and you can, it's amazing. Now let's go here. Okay, we did all the research, and now we're into analysis mode. So it can look at all the alternative options. Again, you've got prompts that will do this. You do all your what if research. You develop position specifications. You develop the arguments for it. You develop what are the weaknesses that somebody might identify in the position you have to represent. And then you can get into your analysis of delegation segmentation to find the ones that are going to be pro to what you're presenting, those that are neutral, and those that are likely to be against. Then we can get into actually generating the position papers, developing the strategies, your strategies, the overall strategy, and then negotiation strategies for each segment of delegates, and your various pitch development for your segments, developing your opening speech, your presentation development, and then developing other things, because you can create websites and other things on the side that will try to influence the audience you're trying to influence, and get into looking at your opening speech. What are potential questions and answers that might be difficult to deal with? So you can be prepared for them. And then your presentation and negotiation practice, where you can practice giving your presentation to AI that is watching you. It's seeing your facial movements, your hand movements. It's watching you give your presentation, and it could advise you, coach you relative to your speaking, to your mannerisms, to your ums and ahs, and everything else. And then even get into Q&A, all those questions that were identified, seeing how you react, because it's able to then ask you the questions, do the role play, and ask you the questions as if that was the live presentation. And then you can do the same kind of negotiation practice with role playing and coaching, where you can have the AI be the neutral delegation you're trying to convince, or be the adversarial delegation you're trying to convince or uh, uh, neutralize. So,
Sounds like a training tool to create the perfect diplomats.
well, wouldn't that be something here, huh? So the
Well,
idea.
like you said, if the AIs were the ones to be the diplomats, with like to just have the AIs on all sides
Yeah.
negotiating with themselves, that would be the essence of that perfect diplomatic negotiation, and then
I think it'll be more like the the snail with the sea anemone on its back. We will absorb the AI into ourselves and become some kind of cybernetic organism eventually anyway,
Well,
yeah,
but
yeah.
in the meantime here,
Once we upload our minds onto the internet.
yeah,
Yeah, but our minds actually in our brains anyway.
yeah. But in the meantime, here the productivity, the great danger on plus and danger of AI is going to augment human productivity initially. Will become much more productive, so they'll need a lot fewer of us to do whatever needs to be done. And eventually we become so productive we don't need ourselves because the AI will continually
Uh-huh.
be expanding what it's able to do. And I mean, we did this with just basic AI. If we look at what SAP can do, or what I built, architected here in an enterprise model, where we basically took everything in the order processing, from verifying the availability, verifying the prices with that particular customer, going and checking the credit levels, the credit limits, and all the way down the line, all the things that people they thought were the hard jobs to do. We basically automated those, and we went from an order coming in on the average taking a day and a half between the time it hit the company to getting down in the warehouse for shipping, cutting that down to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And
my dad when he was young, they interviewed a senior engineer building motorways in England, and one of the radio interviewers was saying, "Oh, there's this huge mountain range in here. Like, how are you going to build through there? We'll just bulldoze it away." And he said, "And there's this bottomless pit in such and such a place. What are you going to do with that? Fill it in."
well, one of the things is if you try to watch the uh, YouTube a lot, and one of the things, especially since deep sea, well, not even then, we've anybody who's trying to watch what's going on in the world, you got to keep an eye on what's happening in China. And I think a perfect example is the transport system in China, that went from, I think, 7 kilometers prior to the 2008 Olympics, I think it was, in China, to 27,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. And taking a look at the bridges they are able to build, that just that's what they do. Oh yeah, what do you mean? The valley's only a mile and 2 miles wide, no problem.
Yeah.
And just put a bridge over it. So okay, so but the bottom line is here, if we're able to go and have a number of model UNs around the world, if they start adopting this, one of our plans is to then invite, or even as we're developing this, I don't think we can do it for April, but maybe we have it for July, just before the high level political forums in New York. We're having another round of model UNs in New York, that we will try to invite or create a advisory panel of professional diplomats to see what is being done with these tools, and perhaps advise how we can then turn around and make the tools available to the professional diplomatic community. And again, if we have developed custom GPTs and using things like ChatGPT projects or GEMS, the equivalent of that for the different tool sets out there, that we might be able to have a much better, a more effective use of diplomatic effort in being successful in things like the UN. Now, there is the potential danger. One of the things we're seeing across Europe and of course here in the United States is people are saying, oh, democracy and collaboration and things. You know what? Dictators are much more effective. They just do it. They don't have to, they don't ask for permission. They just do it. And so things happen, and the fact that they broke a lot along the way, well, oh, well. But but if we can improve the effectiveness and efficiency of parliamentary agencies and organizations, maybe we can offset that because one of the problems we've got is if we look at the SDGs and we look at where we are 2/3 of the way through the time frame for the SDGs, and what have we accomplished versus what the goals were. And then we realized that, hey, the SDGs were just to deal with what we failed to accomplish with the MDGs, with the Millennium Development Goals, and already we're starting to hear all the talk about, well, we need to extend the SDGs because that's no longer reasonable to think. So there's
Well, you have to take into account that, the whole parliamentary system that we have was designed for the fastest way of getting anywhere was a horse.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And even the fastest way of getting information anywhere
Yeah.
was the horse.
And the thing about it was the expectation of what you can expect to be accomplished was equally slow. Because people weren't aware of necessarily what was happening or how fast things were happening, which is all changing. And so I think this is a little step. We are over our time limit here for this meeting again. I'd just like to sort of get a summary. Are we doing useful stuff? Is this useful that we're doing here? Can you see here if we can reach out and invite young people to participate in using tools like this in their participation of model UNs? How that will not only elevate those students in preparing for model UNs, but can you imagine that will have influence on how they approach all their
Well,
learning?
imagine how different student union politics would be.
Yeah. People will be going in there and they'll be asking their companion AI, how am I going to get them to vote for me? Oh, that one's ahead of me in the polls. Do you think if I spill ink on her hair that'll give me an advantage?
I mean, the demagoguery will happen in elementary school, and then it won't happen when they get to the age where they can actually vote.
Yeah, well, okay, that can be. But I do think here that once people realize how much they can learn about other countries and about problems using the AI tools, I think they'll start applying those to everything they do.
Yeah, and I mean the level of wisdom, from actually talking to people from other countries, it would be just amazing.
Yeah. And one of the things that we do in the model UNs I'm talking about at the UN is we bring actual representatives, the ambassadors from various countries into the sessions and have them look and watch and speak to the students and what's going on. So that'll give them an opportunity to take in a little bit about to what degree we are improving the quality of diplomacy. And the future we want model UNs is their organizer is the Italian Diplomatic Academy, which is a major school for training diplomats for the European Union and also for the UN. and now starting for the African Union as well. So, to the degree they see this happening in their Model UN arm, will perhaps influence the way they train future diplomats. And their diplomats then typically go out as interns into actual delegations and will bring that knowledge of how to do things into those delegations as well. Okay, I'd like to hear from some of the others of you. What do you think about the today's session? Ramatu,
Very useful. Very useful.
Augustine, Shahid?
Yeah, we haven't heard from
Yes,
Yeah,
Ramatu.
others too much.
very useful. And for some of us, we are still learning the IT and everything. All the technologies are kind of new to us, but since I joined this group, I've learned a lot. And one of the things that I have used is the GPT, and I'm writing a novel. But when I write the novel and I kind of paste it there, AI vomits a lot. It even gives me uh, other content that I have not included, but they are meaningful to the novel. So I was wondering whether this is acceptable in the global world. Write a novel and use AI to edit, or the novel. Is it allowed, or will that create or would that create confusion, some complexity in the future?
Well, uh, Amazon has, they're sort of faced with the amount of books being uploaded to Amazon has tremendously increased, especially ebooks, so that they are now limiting the amount of books that a particular person can upload. But the thing here that sort of blew my mind was when I heard, yeah, they're limiting. You can only upload 3 books a day now.
Actually, there's a member of Rotary, the Rotary AI group, I think. What is it? Michael Makongo? Uh, um, he's been uploading books to Amazon. He keeps posting them to my personal WhatsApp and
Uh-huh.
says, "Here's a new one." He had 3 books a day.
Yep.
Three new books published
And
on Amazon as ebooks. He's writing it
But I
with the
think one
AI
of the things
because it's
that's
about
really,
AI.
yeah, one of the things that's really important, anyone running to write, especially a novel, some of the problems with the novel is keeping the characters consistent, and keeping the locations and the plots and the subplots here. And so there's great value of going in and using, especially the thinking tools like ChatGPT, O3 Mini, the high version, and asking it here to help develop the prompts so that you can have prompts that will work out and keep the consistency and congruency of your characters and all the content, keep it all straight, and to go and make sure your plots make sense. So you don't have somebody leaving, driving in a certain kind of a car, and then in another scene, you have them coming back and they're describing, oh, the car, when it's a different car, type of thing. So there's so many different things like that that are important in a novel. And keeping your subplots straight and making sure that the plot that's carrying across all the subplots, that doesn't get changed by what's happening in the subplots and stuff like that. So learning how to write a novel, learning what are the things that are important, what are the things that give the most problem, and so that you end up with that page long prompt. There's I'm trying to remember the name of it. There's a couple of apps out there that are specifically aimed at writers for writing novels and things. And I think some of them are free. So if you do a search in Google, in YouTube, look for YouTube's examples of using AI to write a book, and they will tell you the tools they used, but they'll also tell you about the weaknesses to watch out for when you're trying to use these. Because if you write a book in 2 hours, it's a lot of times difficult to remember to check all these cross factors that might be at play there. Anyway, let's hear from
If
Augustine.
you,
Yes,
no,
Ramatu.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, Ramatu.
Yeah, thank you. I'm done.
Oh, okay. Augustine, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. And unfortunately, I have come late, so I don't know where we started, and I'm trying to follow up what you are presenting. So, because of coming late, I don't have new I can contribute now, but that was a challenge I have because I have passed in the church. After that, that is what happened.
Okay.
But
What I will do.
where, yes.
Yes, I'm going to post the video here from this, and hopefully, maybe Lloyd, you can help me figure out how can we synthesize all this and summarize all this, and maybe turn these 3-hour videos into 20 minutes or something like that.
Yes.
So, but at any rate, you'll be able to see what we've discussed here. So thank you. Shahid.
Actually, something I noticed yesterday, before I forget, I wanted to mention when you're using what is it, Perplexity, and you do a query, if it comes across a video of something, it'll put the little video like a tiny little one there, and you can click on it to watch it in the Perplexity itself. So rather than searching YouTube, now you can use Perplexity and still access those videos that are the most relevant to
and actually
what
here,
you're actually talking about, asking about.
If you see the images, if you see a bunch of images above your answer, and you scroll over to the right, there's usually a more link. If you click on the more link, it gives you the choice between looking at images or looking at videos. And if you click on the videos, it will give you the list of all the videos that it's referencing. Yes, and they each have a watch button on them where you can
and then you just watch them right in this in the interface.
Now there's a tool, there's actually two tools that are interesting here. One tool will enable you to export the list of all the references, the YouTubes, the PDFs, all the references that Perplexity used into a text file. And then there's a tool that enable you to literally import those into Notebook as one step. So if it went out there, Perplexity went out and they found 30 sources, it used 30 sources to give you an answer. And they're a mixture of YouTubes and websites and PDFs or whatever. And you just copy that in to a text file. You have to watch out. You have to go through and just look through to make sure there was not any subheadings or whatnot in that list. Just get rid of them in the text file, and then you can import them into Notebook LM as one step. There's also a tool that will let you go. You add it as an extension to Chrome, for example, and it will let you any YouTube you're watching. It gives you the option to just click a link that says add it to a notebook, and it will just take that. You're watching the video, say, "Oh, this is an interesting video. I want to add this to one of my libraries." Just click on it and have it imported into one of your notebooks. And you can do the same with a website you're on. You're on a website, you say, "Oh, this is an interesting website, would be good for my notebook," and just click on that. Or if you're going into Chrome on a cell phone, for example, it will It'll show you a bunch of stuff that it thinks is of interest to you. And I click on a lot of those. So like there's this Forbes article talking about how this universal interface that's coming very quickly now is going to radically change society. Basically, discussions we had last couple of weeks. And so I said, oh, wow. But I just was able to go and add the link to my WhatsApp. My WhatsApp is my place where I just store all the stuff that I think, I store after I watch the first 2 minutes of YouTube and oh, that's good. I want to see that. So I added to my WhatsApp, and so I add about 500 a day of videos that I want to watch, which
Don't have enough time in your
if I
life.
get to two of them, I will be very lucky. So, these tools would have I should I should install these extensions to Chrome. They're both extensions to do the whole list, or to just take them one at a time that you find and say, add this to one of my notebooks, and it will do it. There's also here in Gemini, one of the newer ones is they have one of the models is 2.0 Flash with apps. And it will now let you directly from Gemini talk to your Gmail, talk to your to YouTube, talk to any of your Google Docs and slides and so forth. You can talk to them all directly from Gemini. So yeah, that's why all these things they're just
Crazy.
moving so fast in what you're going to be able to do. So that's why I say, just imagine we're talking week to week. Imagine where we're going to be in 4 weeks, 1 month. Imagine where we're going to be in 3 months, 6 months. And people are having difficulty being able to comprehend how can we possibly be thinking how far we might be in 6 months. Well, if I look back 6 weeks, that is already mind-boggling. You have to realize that ChatGPT 01 was only released on 6 December, I think it was. So just a little over 2 months that we've had any of these major thinking models at all. And now
I consider right now, like, because I'm now using these tools daily, I can't even imagine going back to not using them now.
Yeah.
Like, how does someone function without these things?
Are you using ChatGPT Canvas?
I don't. I actually, on my desktop right now, I have opened Notebook LM, Perplexity, ChatGPT. It's just chatgpt.com,
Okay.
DeepSeek, and Gemini. So I have 5 tools open on my
Okay.
desktop.
So are you familiar with Claude artifacts?
You've mentioned it before.
Okay. The Claude artifacts is the same as ChatGPT Canvas. ChatGPT Canvas, what it does is when you open that, which is now available for everybody, if you're opening it on a laptop or and you're in a desktop, if you say type something in, say open Canvas, it will split your screen. On the left-hand side of the screen, you talk to the AI. The right-hand side of the screen is whatever you're talking about. It can be a text, it can be an image, it can be code, and you just tell it what you want to do. So you tell it, hey, on the left-hand side, you say, hey, turn that into an outline discussing how the UN works. And then it will make that. And then you can say, well, change the tune, make it more professional, make it less professional, whatever. You can go in then and contrary to where AIs where it just rewrites the whole document, you can go in and say, rewrite paragraph 3 and just tell it what you want changed, and it will change it in place in paragraph 3. Or you can just put your cursor on the right-hand side of the screen in paragraph 3 and just literally edit the text. Or you can go in and go mouse over any paragraph And if you go to the right-hand side of any paragraph, it'll open a little tiny symbol that if you click on, now the instructions that you give will only apply to that one paragraph. And then on the bottom right-hand side, there's one button that if you click on it expands into about 5, and you can adjust the reading level. So you can say, I want this to be for PhD students, or I want this to be for middle school students to be able to understand. Or you can say, I want you to make it longer, I want you to make it shorter. Or you can say, make it pretty, and it will go and format all the headings, subheadings, highlight, bold certain statements inside the text that it thinks should be emphasized, italicize stuff for you. It'll make it pretty, and it will do all those things for you. Oh, and then you can type, just like you can go into Google Docs right now. If you've been given the not edit rights, but you've been given commenter rights on Google Docs, you can go in and make suggestions, right? And so you make a suggestion, and then when the author comes back, they can click on show me the suggestions. You see on the right-hand side the suggestions, and it says, oh, eliminate this extra space, or add a comma here, or whatever, change this sentence to read like this. And you can either click accept, or you can click reject. There's a button there on the bottom right on Canvas that you can click on that will go through your whole document, and it will critique it and make comments, paragraph by paragraph, line by line, sentence by line, where you can improve the readability or whatever the purpose is. And you have that same, okay, yeah, I accept that suggestion it's making, and it will just make the change for you. Or you can say accept it and say, yeah, I wanted that, but I want this one word changed in the suggestion that's made. You click accept, and you just go in and edit and change that one word. It is mind-boggling what you can do, but you can do the same thing with code. And if you do it with code, especially like if you're in Anthropic artifacts, Google Claude artifacts, and you do this with the tool, on the left-hand side, again, you're talking to the AI, and you say, make me a website that says this, does this, or whatever you say. Boom. On the right-hand side, the code's there. And then there's a button that says, show me. And it will actually show you the code being executed. So literally, it will show you the code, show it being executed, but then you have the capability of going, Joan, you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, is this private?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're just sort of BSing a little bit because
I like that.
my wife is about to come in.
I'm full of that. So
my wife's going to hit me over in a minute here. But I was talking about the ability of Canvas, of using ChatGPT Canvas for code, where you can have it make you a website, make a game. All kind of people, the typical things people do, especially young people, is they go in and say, make me a chess game. Another one that's a good example is people go in and say, make me a calculator. Make me a calculator app. And it will write all the code for the calculator app. And then on the right-hand side, it gives you the ability to say, show it. Now, the one in Anthropic, I forget which one it is. There's a new one that's letting you do the same thing now. I think it might be Google, where you have the split screen. One side you're talking to the guy, and the other side is whatever you're talking about. But when you go and click and say, show me the code for the calculator show me this code that you created running, and it's a calculator, the calculator actually works.
wow.
Right. So, and the game, if you go and say, I want to play Pong, or write me a game that plays Pong or whatever, it'll do it. So if you create a website, you can turn around and say, I don't like the background color. Oh, the heading's too tall. Change the font for this. Oh, add another paragraph between here and here. Add a new menu item. Well, currently you have to write it. But I think within a month or two,
you can't tell it yet.
to speak it. In
We
fact,
can hear you, Lloyd.
Yeah, I've been unmuted for a while.
yeah. So I have the impression Lloyd is actually trying the stuff I was just saying while
Oh, I see.
I
Sorry.
do. I every time you say it, you tell us. That's why I come to these sessions, right? I have a on my Chrome, my Google Chrome, I have a whole section for all the AI tools in my bookmarks, and it's now a fairly long list.
So
Uh,
do
so every
you,
time you say something, I add it and I try it. I want to try it and I want to use it. That's why I say I'm doing research, or I'm doing um, having these important calls. Like every Friday, we have the call with Herschel Daniels from the Friends of the African Union, and he's telling us about certain things, and he's giving us hints. I know what he's doing is he's giving us hints. He's telling us certain information, and I need to go back and do research into what he's telling us. And what I'm using are these AI tools like um, what was I mentioning before? The perplexity, right? And
yeah.
when I use perplexity, because it's real time, it's not like old data. It's going onto the web and it's finding this stuff. And I'm realizing what he's saying is actually true. Yes, what he's pointing at us is happening.
Mhm.
And I can get information and follow up and create a report that has much more depth than what he actually just said during the call,
Can you see my screen now?
because I'm using AI tools to do a deeper research.
Can you see my screen right now? What can I help you with, ChatGPT? I'm in the 4.0 model.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm in the 4.0. We got all the different ones. So I'm in 4.0. I do have not the pro plan, but whatever the plan under that is. And you see down here, where I would add my prompt, I have a plus. I can upload files and images, or I can search the web. Or over here, I have view tools, and one of the tools is Canvas. So I open this and I say, uh, make me a website with that explains how the agencies of the UN work. Okay, not a lot of detail on that, huh?
So when I click on the plus sign,
Yes.
I get connect to Google Drive, connect to Microsoft OneDrive, upload from
What
computer.
model are you in? Up at the top,
Yeah,
what model are you in?
up at the top. Hold on. Where do I find that?
On the top of your inside your
I've
inside.
created a basic website
Oh,
layout explaining how UN
hold
agencies
on
work.
just a second.
Let me know if you need any modifications or additional features.
Okay, now you see this. I'm going to preview my output.
Hmm.
Come on, come on. Where are you? Oh, here we go. So this is
What?
this is the website it just created for me.
Oh,
Okay, fairly simple website. Now, what I could do over here, because I'm in Canvas, so my ability I can talk to Canvas on this side of the screen over here. Um, so here I can just say, change the heading to beige.
I think you have to reload it.
No,
Yeah.
I think
You've updated the heading background color to
Okay.
beige. Let me know if you need any further modifications.
Can hardly read it now.
Maybe you need the writing changed to some other color.
okay, say change the heading text color to black. So you can see on the left-hand side, it says, okay, I'm editing. If I was to switch this back over to look at the code here, so if I now see it, just
I've
change it.
changed the heading text color to black.
Mhm.
Let me know if you need any further adjustments.
So now I just said add some menu items to the bottom of the heading here. So it's now editing those. Boom.
I've
Good.
added 3 menu items, home, about, and contact us below the heading.
So
Let me know if you
Crazy.
need any further modifications.
they don't go anywhere, but now I could say, right, and say, add a second page. Well, add a second page uh, uh, linked from the about button that says we are dare to be great. This one here is going to be interesting to see if it can do that.
So how do you export this page as a website?
Up at the top, you can see next to
I've
stop.
added a second page linked from the About button, which
Okay.
now points to About HTML. Below is the content for About HTML. You can add this as a separate HTML file named About HTML in your project directory. Let me know if you need further modifications.
Looks like it didn't work.
Yeah. So it didn't, the link didn't work. It says it couldn't find the specific page blob. So sort of
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention. There are certainly some bugs in these programs I'm noticing. In particular, for Perplexity, I'm noticing every once in a while, when it's looking for an answer, it has that little icon, that thing that turns, and it looks like a little, I don't know, impeller or something. So kind of telling you that it's still doing the research and finding the answers for you. But I've noticed 2 or 3 times for some queries after I've done a few in a row, one query will come up and it'll never finish. It'll just keep going and going and going, and it'll never stop. There's the little button at the bottom that what you can press to say stop the search, and it doesn't work.
yeah.
Having to
Normally I come up
refresh
with
the whole page.
Yeah, normally I come up with the opposite situation, especially in ChatGPT. If the answer it's coming back with is very long, it just will stop, and you sort of read and you think, oh, is it done? But you say it's stopping at a weird spot. It's stopping like in the middle of a bullet, and so if you just say continue, then it will very often it will continue.
Well, with Perplexity, you can't ask a follow-up question until it's finished. So I'm always wanting to ask the next thing, but that thing that says it's like thinking, right? Is continuing, so it won't allow me to ask the next thing.
One thing with Perplexity, if you haven't been doing it, is you've got Perplexity spaces. which is almost like Notebook LM in Perplexity. So it will allow you to go and put some documents in there and say, okay, within this space, all the searches you do and everything, I want you to follow these instructions when you're doing the searches. And you can then have multiple threads inside that spaces, if you would. There's also the capability of a thing called pages. And with pages, it's almost like the summarization that you get in Notebook LM. It will take all of the various threads and everything and all the sources that it researched in a spaces, and it will now export a summary document that summarizes everything to do with what's in those spaces.
Mhm.
So these are pretty powerful. And as I said, this morning, I saw the news that Perplexity now has, let me see if I can get to that. Perplexity here, I don't know where it is to get to deep research on this, but supposedly there's deep researches now. Okay. So here now it's what it's doing is it's telling me, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm identifying the main United Nations agencies and their functions. I'm exploring the history and establishment of key UN agencies. I'm investigating the current leadership and structure of major UN agencies. So it looks like it did some kind of deep research here. But again, I just tried that. I dumped something in here and wow. Okay. It's given me a lot of information, the funding structures, the documentation, the current status. Okay. And then here's these examples of the related questions like what are the main functions of the UN specialized agencies? How do the UN specialized agencies coordinate with the UN? Which UN specialized agency is the oldest? How are UN specialized agencies funded? What role does the Chief Executives Board play in the UN system? So these are examples of follow-on questions that I can ask. But as I said, I have got to do more research on this. So
So Bill, like I asked the question before, how would you export this?
okay.
That's number one. And a totally different question is I'm always asking about the copyright issues and resource, like how do you quote when you write an article like say ChatGPT and say you write that as a and you publish it, do you say ChatGPT?
I would say you go back to the original. And on a lot of these tools, you may have to ask them for it, but it will give you the citations of what's the original, where it's pulling that citation from, and it will give
Actually,
you.
that's the one thing about Perplexity is that it does provide all the sources and the links
Yeah.
and
And you can
Okay.
see here.
Say, but say I wrote the original let's say a blog post and put it into ChatGPT, make this better.
Yeah.
Do we give them credit for that?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. I'm just wondering, I'm just, very
it
sensitive
probably
to
is up to you to decide whether
Yeah.
you want to say that you did use it
okay.
or not
But
at
here's
this
the
point.
thing that I want to sort of show on this. This
I think if you put it through several different AIs, none of them could really claim originality for it.
Okay. Okay.
Here you asked about the export. Here,
Yeah.
this is the document that it created, or the answer that it
Yep.
created. You got to keep in mind this is Perplexity.
Mhm.
So, but here you see,
We're seeing your
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT screen, by the way, Bill.
oh, you're not seeing that. Okay, let me switch over. Stop share. Share.
I realized actually like that you were probably on a different screen.
Okay, so here's my Perplexity screen. Do deep research about UN agencies, and it came back, and this is what it came back with here. And now I can I can share a link so that I can allow others to see exactly my thread, or I can export the answer, or I can say, yeah, rewrite this. Let's see, what else does it give me?
Oh, no, I was asking when you create a website page, like what we were seeing in
Yes,
ChatGPT.
there is when you create as a website page, that one of the choices there is to be able to grab it, and you can export it, or
Oh, okay.
it'll copy it. Now, that used to be a weakness in ChatGPT, that you couldn't run it inside the ChatGPT program. You had to copy it and then take it to, and there's a gazillion places out there that will tell you different places you can go, websites you can go to, or if you have any kind of a service that's hosting websites for you, you can just go there and say add a site, and you can just cut and drop it into there, drop the code into there, and it will
Oh, okay.
generally run. I actually have a couple that I created like that, websites, but I only was using it not to have a website to show anybody, but just to be able to test how complicated a website can I make. And I found you can do things like the scrolling marquee. You just tell it, put a scrolling marquee across the bottom of the heading that says, and you say what you want it to say, and it'll do it. So it's pretty amazing. But there are certain things, if you want to put background images on things like this, I didn't take time to figure out how to do those kind of things. But yeah, it's pretty wild. Now you have to remember, if you're using something like WordPress for websites, or Wix or any of those, these tools have gotten so good that it's unlikely that you want to use a tool like this to create a website, um, because those tools give you the same capability of just
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, do this, do that," and it will do it for you. Um,
Yeah, I use
Yeah, they're
WordPress. I
bringing
love
AI into
WordPress.
those.
So,
Exactly. Everything, so many of the tools are putting AI into it.
yeah.
And what this means, again, look back 2 months ago. What could you do 2 months ago? What can you do now you couldn't do 2 months ago? And just imagine what you're going to be able to do 2 months from now. What are you going to be able to do 4 months, 6 months from now?
Yeah. In WordPress, I use the theme of Divi. And you can have AI and they'll create like images just for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yep.
Actually, I mentioned the presentation I did on Wednesday. Half the images in the presentation were created by AI,
Yep.
Wow.
based on the subjects of
Yeah.
and the topics.
You
I
know,
just
And
said,
which
here's
program
what I
did you
want
use?
an image for.
Yeah.
yeah. Here's what
In
you
ChatGPT, you mean?
Not using chat, like different tools. I've got all these
Okay.
different tools, right? So I'm trying them all.
Yeah.
And I think I went to Canva,
Yeah, I do that too.
and I just said, here's what I want to talk about. This is the image I want.
Yeah.
And it just produces something for me. And then a custom image just for my
Here's something you might want to try.
presentation, just for that slide.
If you ask any of these tools, create a description for me of XYZ or whatever that describes how something works that you are interested in, and then you can go to Gamma. I think it's GAMMA.ai or whatever, and you literally can just say, make me a presentation based on this, and give it the document you're talking about, and it will create an entire presentation with images and page titles and
Oh my God.
everything for you. And then you
Mhm.
can just talk to it and say, oh yeah, pretty good, but I don't think slide 3 is a little weak. Can you give it a stronger image, or can you do
What?
this?
It's called Gamma?
Gamma, GAMMA.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
There's a couple of YouTube's
Yeah,
out.
well, what I ended up doing, because I was looking for a tool like that, and I did a little bit of a search to try to find it, and I didn't find Gamma, but I
It's
did get the outline from the AI system for what I want, all the content of my presentation.
Mhm.
And I also asked the AI to please take all the content of my presentation and create the actual text and talking points, everything I want to say.
Yeah.
And it did that too. So
Yeah.
all I had to do was end up reading it. I read it once, did a few small edits,
Yeah.
but it was just about exactly what I wanted to say.
There's another thing you can do. You can take, even if you're in a Google Doc or whatever, save whatever you're talking about as a Word document, and then go in Word and click on export to PowerPoint. And it will turn whatever that document, that Word document is, it will turn it into a PowerPoint slide presentation. I don't know if you have to have Copilot to do that, but I think a certain level of Copilot is free. But all of these things are getting to be so much similar to Gamma. There's another one out there, I understand, where you can give it a document like that and say, or give it a PowerPoint presentation and say, turn this into a video. And it will make a video that explains the whole thing.
I'm going to go to it and see. Gamma.com?
Yeah, it's gamma.com or gamma.ai.
No, that's another tool, right?
It's another tool, yep. Ian, did you just raise your hand or was that up for a while?
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, shameless plug here for the book I did. It's under review on Amazon at the moment. Food of the Future Dialogues. So what I've done is I've arranged the chapters, and in each chapter, two people have a discussion with each other on the particular topic. If you get a chance to have a look, I'll let you know when they actually publish it. At the moment, it's there as Kindle, but I think it's better as an Audible just to listen to it.
By the way, before I forget, as long as I'm on this page from Perplexity, you'll notice there's some images over here on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, if you notice, some of these are videos. They have the watch on it here. So if I clicked on that,
yep, that's what I was saying.
It brings
Good morning. I am Richa and I welcome you once again to Parcham classes. बहुत early morning recording है, तो आवाज में मेंढक बैठा है ऐसा लग सकता है आपको. Anyway.
Okay, so that lets you watch all of those. But if you notice down below here, I can search images that fit the text of the answer it gave me, or that I can even come down here and generate images here relative to this. A painting, an illustration, a diagram, a photograph. I'm going to click on diagram, see what it comes up with. Boom. So there's a diagram about the agencies of the UN generated with flux. There it is. World Health Organization.
Can you make it big? Yeah.
Let's see.
So this is powerful. I didn't know this existed in
well, and again, here we're still looking for the deep research because, as I said, as of today, Perplexity is offering deep research.
Because now I'm thinking, yeah, I can use this to create, as I produce these summaries, I can use this to create visuals of the discussions we had that create relational images in our heads, right?
Yeah, there's just so many. Oh, here was the view sources to what this image came up with. Take a look over here. Here's all the sources on the right-hand side that it went through to come up with that short document that it came up with me. And if you notice, they have check boxes next to them all. And if I can check these check boxes, and then I can, I think.
And uncheck them too?
What's that?
Like, can you remove sources if you don't want the source to
Well,
be used?
if you want to take the sources over into something else, you just don't check them. So it's only going to take the sources that as you go through, and it's sort of telling you a little summary of each of these sources of what it's saying or what it pulled from it to get the information here. I think, yes, you see where it says up at the top here, I clicked on these three buttons, add to space, convert to page. Page, if you recall, it creates an export document out of that. So I'm just going to click on that convert to page. And so it went and it's now writing. If you notice, it did pretty text and the headings.
Wow.
Yeah, these tools, I'm just, as I use them too, I mean, I'm finding, wow.
Going through here. And if you'll notice at the bottom of every paragraph, it's showing it says there's 4 sources that it used for that. It gives me the capability to edit that. If you'll notice here, key specialized agencies and roles. It's got a button here at the top under the heading, add media. So I click on that. And look at that. It added the image right in the middle of my output document.
Here yet.
Down here, I'm under operational features and evolution. Add media.
There it is.
It's adding the same one. So that's not so, looks like the same one anyway. So I can say change, and it gives me the option of all these other things that I could add here. Let's add this one. So
and it gives you a choice. Yeah.
Puts that in there. So, and then I've got a button here. I can insert a section between any of the sections that it gave. I can add that. Here's another one, change, comes up with, so I can put in here. So you can imagine what I can end up with as a document out of just doing this. And then it's got this thing here where it says layout. Do you like the layout? I have large header image. I want a small header image. So it put the header image over on the side here. And again, I can, there was a way I can export this. There's, I know, so I can go, this was concise. Let me see. So this is concise. I said, no, I want this to be detailed. So this is, I think, rewriting this particular one now.
Anyway, we are approaching 1 o'clock, and I think this
you're absolutely right. But just to see here, that one paragraph, that just by switching that from concise to detailed, it's still writing, but it's 3 times the length that it was on that one thing. To streamline operations and avoid duplication of effort, UN specialized agencies often collaborate on cross-cutting issues for advance. For instance, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, may work closely with the World Health Organization, WHO, on matters related, and it's still writing. You notice that? It looks like it just finished. Now take a look at the length. Everything was the length of this one before, right? And now look at the length that this one paragraph had, and I could do that to the whole document like that, selectively.
Yeah.
And of course,
you can write books, literally, right?
Huh?
You can write whole books.
Oh yeah. You could, like I said, somebody used deep research on ChatGPT and said, write me a 100-page book on, and gave what he wanted it written on. Okay, so guys, as somebody just pointed out, it's crazy. We're now 4 hours. Oh, whoa. Let me stop.
Yeah, I've been on 2 other calls and completed them and came back. I said, I wonder if those guys are still talking.
I'm going to challenge myself to write another book while we're doing one of these.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on writing your book, Ian. That's fantastic. I was involved in the food summits and the future of education. I hosted one event for both.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to read your book as well.
So,
So congratulations.
yes,
Well, I'll
yes.
tell you when it's actually up because
Let me know
like
what's available so I can steal it and download it and load it into Notebook LF.
sure.
And one quick thing before I forget, Lloyd, I really need to talk to you about an
Uh,
Indigenous summit I'm doing in the fall. Um, so
okay.
so if I can talk to you after this, but I have to say
Sure,
I
sure,
learned
sure.
so much, and I'm so I know my questions are combative sometimes, but it's how I am.
Mhm.
I like to discuss things and have provocative conversations. It's not
That's
what
good.
I necessarily believe. It's, the truth and justice is something that I'm very much so much people just accept what is, and I find that
One
very irritating.
One thing that's very, very interesting, and it's a discussion that we're, I think, heading towards in the Rotary Artificial Intelligence Fellowship Group, and that is okay. Should we be focusing on informing people of how they can maximize their individual productivity, how they can do things that they might want to do, or should we be focusing on um, the macro picture of what does all this mean for society? Because if one extrapolates out of what's been happening and literally month by month here, and therefore so many of the plans, especially these organizations, including the UN, who plan 6 months, 12 months out for conferences, that so many of the things they're planning for are the purpose, what they're trying to accomplish is obsolete before
Yes.
they ever get to their meetings.
Yeah.
But yet they stick with it and they still discuss how are we going to accomplish obsolete things.
I
And
was on a call for I don't know if you guys know the UN has initiate the next launch after the 2020 30. So it's the next phase. And one of the things that one of the presenters said is that we've got to stop, speaking from the UN's point of view, we've got to stop looking at how do we create frameworks and come up with how do we solve a problem. So, and that conversation was almost a year ago. So they realize it's a problem.
oh yeah, but still we have things like the conference on financing for development, but the kind of development that they're trying to finance is itself obsolete.
Yes.
So, I sort of had an analogy that I've used a couple of times that, this in the days of a couple of hundred years ago, where plows were pulled by mules, and the guy, his plowshare broke, so he sent his farmhand off to find a new plowshare front end to the plow, and the guy's out there looking to find that. But in the meantime, tractors have come along, and he's out there still trying to find, who has this part for
Yeah.
a mule pulled plow. When he gets back and he says, "I found it," and everybody's going to say, "Who cares?"
Yeah.
These tractors.
Yeah. Don't need those
Yes.
tools anymore.
But
Yeah,
a lot of the big organizations are in this exact situation.
mhm.
They're outdated, they're not responsive to current needs and wants. Things are moving so fast and they have no capability of responding.
If you haven't ever seen any of his presentations, there was a professor at Harvard called Clayton Christensen, and his main claim to fame was he wrote a couple of books, but the main one was Innovator's Dilemma. And he talks about how companies, as they get more and more successful, they keep honing in on their most successful clients, the clients that give them the biggest profit margin, and they start ignoring the marginal clients, and that enables new players come in and compete for the marginal clients.
Yeah.
And these guys are saying, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about those guys anymore. But then those new players, they start
Yeah.
inching their way up
Yeah.
through the marketplace. And the next thing you know, they're 5 times as big.
Replacing
Guy
them.
who's gotten smaller and smaller by
Yeah.
focusing on his most profitable customers. There's
Yeah.
a couple of really good YouTubes out there, Clayton Christensen, if you want to look for them.
It's like certain camera companies ignoring the digital
Kodak. Yeah.
revolution
Yeah.
and sticking
Sears,
with film, right? Like,
Kodak invented the digital camera.
Yeah.
The people said, "Oh, it's gonna harm our. We make a lot of chemicals," and so yeah. Okay, I'm getting.
Just like Xerox with the computers.
Well, Xerox, came out with one of the top best magic wand word processors early on. And, it was one of the best packages, thought it was going to have great success. And then Microsoft Word came along and they disappeared overnight. Anyway, I'm getting the yank here, the shepherd.
Hey, you mean a husband listen to a wife? Geez, I have to tell my husband that. I didn't know it exists. So,
anyway, so
Lloyd, can I call you?
A new cultural phenomena, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My husband's favorite thing is, I said, "Are you listening?" He says, "I'm hearing you." It's not the same thing.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.